Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Turning Point podcast, and it's Star Wars Day. Happy Star Wars Day, Lewin. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing real good. Happy Star Wars Day yourself. May the
Yeah,
4th. Tomorrow's Revenge the 5th. We get a double day.
Yep, it's 100% Star Wars Day right
Yep.
now. Yep, 100%.
It's
Um,
fuck somewhere in the world.
Fair enough. My name is Ben, and as always, I am joined here once again by Lewin.
Out.
I kind of reversed the order around. Normally, I'd ask how you're going, but we kind of screwed that intro up, so we're just gonna roll with it now.
We're here. We're doing this. No one gets to complain. This is our thing.
Yep, welcome to Star Wars Day. Today we're going to be talking about lots of Star Wars. That's going to be happening. We're going to be talking, mainly reviewing The Mandalorian.
Which we've recently finished.
We both recently finished. I actually finished it for the second time. You finished it for the first time. So there's a lot to talk about there. So we're going to talk about The Mandalorian. But I also just thought we'd have, in my notes, I've got written down Star Wars talk or whatever. I don't know, just wing this bit. So we'll do that after The Mandalorian. We'll just kind of, I guess, talk about some Star Wars for a little bit. I don't know.
We will not be going in depth on, like we said last episode, I think we did mention it last episode, we're not going in depth on the sequel trilogy. Don't expect that.
No, it's like Joker. We're never going to talk about that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, except Joker, our timeless child, is something that is on every episode's note list to do, where Rise of Skywalker is not.
Yeah, this is very true. We always go in planned to do the Joker.
Except this episode. This episode, I deliberately not planned it because I've got Star Wars talk or whatever. I don't know, just wing this bit.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's very important to talk about. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. So yeah, happy Star Wars Day to everyone out there. Hope you are all, I don't know, what people do on Star Wars Day. Watch Star Wars.
Enjoy your favorite trilogy. Sit down. Drink out of your lightsaber cup that you got from the cinema 20 years ago. And enjoy your day.
Yeah, I actually have in this office actually a couple of Star Wars boxes. Okay.
Okay.
And those Star Wars boxes, one contains a lot of action figure shit. Just it's like a box filled with just stuff. Okay. Including a Jar Jar Binks, Chupa Chup dispenser thing.
I remember those.
Yep. I've got one of them, and it's awesome because like you've got like the head of Jar Jar Binks, right, and then you push the thing, and Jar Jar Binks' mouth opens, and and I mean a Chopper Chopper is meant to come out, and then you take I look, listen, I just have this. I don't know if you're meant to eat the Chopper Chop from Jar Jar Binks' mouth.
I wouldn't eat anything that came out of Jar Jar's mouth, to be fair.
Yeah, or if you take it out and then eat it, I don't know. But it's a thing that I own. I also have a nice little model of C-3PO as well. A few Star Wars puzzles. I have an unopened VHS Star Wars A New Hope Special Edition. And just a bunch of unopened Star Wars shit from back in the day, as well as a bunch of opened Star Wars shit from back in the day.
On my end, the memorabilia is a bit lacking in my room nowadays.
Well, I don't even display it. Like, it's just in a box.
Outside of the games and things, I think the closest thing to that I have to vintage Star Wars is semi-vintage, and that's my VHS copy of The Phantom Menace that I pretty much wore to hell when I was a child.
Ooh, nice. Nice. I had the original trilogy special edition box set of VHSs, and I also had episode 1 and 2 on VHS, and then episode 3 was the first one we got on DVD, and then from there we actually brought the DVD releases, and then they released the fucking Blu-ray box set, so now I own that.
Is that like all 9 film Blu-ray box set?
No, this was the old Blu-ray box set, so there's the 6 films. So I own, get ready for this, I own the box set, the complete saga box set, and episode 7 on Blu-ray. I do not own any other films on Blu-ray. I didn't buy Rogue One, I didn't buy Solo, I didn't buy Last Jedi, and I haven't purchased Rise of Skywalker. And I'm probably not likely to, considering the fact that those movies, well, apart from Rise of Skywalker, although actually today, on May the 4th,
Yep.
because that's the date today.
We're gonna get suspicious if you keep saying that. Don't worry, guys. It is May the 4th.
It's 100% May the 4th today. Uh, Today, the complete Skywalker saga is released on Disney
Disney
Plus. So
Plus. Yep.
essentially, all that means is Rise of Skywalker is being released on Disney Plus.
So, if you want to finish it all off, you can either watch um, Return of the Jedi and pretend that the sequel trilogy didn't happen, as I know a lot of you are tending to do, or you can see it all through and enjoy your time.
Yeah, you could just do that. You could not be a little bitch and just do that. But hey, look, that's my thoughts on the situation. Anyway, I also have the other box is filled with there's a couple of Star Wars shirts and shit in there, and just a lot of like magazines and books. Like you remember those like what were they called? They were like the Star Wars schematic kind of book things, not like schematics, but they like had like the drawings of like ships and stuff with like bits opened up so you could see inside and
Those are
whatnot.
the ones that you could get with like the magazines that you went to the fucking newsies.
No,
No?
no, these all like fucking like releases, separate releases.
Okay. I
I've got
know what it
those.
is.
I think I've got one for episode 2, one for episode 1, and maybe an original trilogy one. I'm pretty sure I've got a visual dictionary somewhere. And I also own, and this is actually my favorite thing. This is back when I used to read books. I don't read books anymore, but I used to. And back in the day, when I was a young little boy, I bought a book called The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader, which essentially chronicled the entire, at the time, Star Wars saga, but all from Anakin's perspective.
Interesting.
And it also had like little bits in between to kind of bridge the gaps of each film. And that was a really fucking cool book. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I remember I read that several times because like that was fucking cool. And I also have the novelizations of all the original 6 films as well.
Oh, I'm not too
So I
sure. Are
have,
they any good? If you've read them?
I actually have some of the rare ones as well. Like I mean, like the rare to find ones. Like I've got, what do I have? I've got an original. Um, I think I've got like original ones of Empire Strikes Back and A New Hope. Like I don't know if they're original, but they're certainly old novel versions of the
Yeah.
novelizations. But yeah, the only thing I don't have is the actual proper novelization for Revenge of the Sith. I have, because at the time I was a kid, so I have the condensed kid version, basically.
Is that the one with the cover being Anakin and Obi-Wan
It's
fighting
it's the
on Mustafar?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have that. I don't have the proper novelization, but you never know. I might get it one day. I might never read it because I don't read books, but we'll see.
Nice to have.
But yeah, that's kind of my Star Wars collection. Oh, and I've got Clone Wars on DVD somewhere as well,
Nice.
floating around. I think I've got season 1 of Rebels. I don't know. Oh, and I got these DVDs. Once they're called Star Wars Heroes and Star Wars Villains, and they came. I'm pretty sure from memory, those discs came with cereal around the
Classic.
time Episode 3 was coming out.
Do they even
I'm pretty
do
sure
that anymore?
Episode. No, I don't know.
That's sad
But there
to me.
was.
Cereal toys were like the fucking best.
Yeah, I can't remember what cereal it was. It was probably just some fucking like cornflakes or fucking.
Special K used to do a shit ton of those.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Essentially, what happened was there was a disc inside the cereal box, and one was called Star Wars Heroes, and then the next week they had Star Wars Villains. And they were separate things that explored the Star Wars heroes and the Star Wars villains of the Star Wars universe, obviously, but they were presented by Anthony Daniels.
Oh, sick.
What a gem that boy is. But yeah, so this is back in the day when Star Wars was like back before the internet, when you can have an opinion on Star Wars and not get fucking castrated
Back
for
when
it.
Star Wars was the hottest shit no matter what. Everyone who wasn't a child hated the prequels. Everyone who was a child loved the prequels.
Here's the thing, and this is what I reckon. Here's the thing, like, you see a lot of this, like, it's funny because a lot of the prequel hate came later from I mean, I was a kid at the time, so I was really loved the prequels. So, you know, it comes back to what you were saying, but, like, it's kind of one of those things that, like, the more years went on, the more prequel hate came out. But then now all of a sudden it's like, oh no, the prequels were actually alright, weren't they, guys?
Look, they
It's like, yeah. So I can guarantee you this, in 10, 20 years' time, whenever the next big Star Wars thing happens. I mean, it's probably going to be in a couple of years, to be honest. But let's just assume in like 10, 20 years' time, everyone's going to be like, yeah, you know, that Disney trilogy, it wasn't that bad. I mean, look, it had problems, but it really wasn't that bad. I guarantee you that will happen. I guarantee you every
It's-
YouTuber you see now that fucking whinges and complains about The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, 10 years down the line will be making videos talking about how Last Jedi is an underrated gem and how it was doing something different. I guarantee it.
I will actually give Last Jedi that credit, but we're not
No, I
going
guarantee
in
it.
depth.
Everyone's gonna turn around and say that the Disney trilogy wasn't that bad. It's 100% gonna happen. So good luck. Anyway, that's Star Wars for you. But yeah, anyway, we'll talk more about Star Wars a bit later. But there's something I want to talk about now, Lewin.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a little news segment. We don't do news segments, but we're gonna do one.
It's raining a bit chilly in my neighborhood. Are we doing weather reports?
Yeah. What's the weather? We're gonna cross over to you for the weather.
It's raining.
Yeah, that's a bit shit. It's not raining where I am, so it's
That
cloudy as fuck though. It's really dark in my room.
has been the weather.
Yeah, and now we're gonna cross to Tom for the sports. Oh no, wait, he's not here. Also, he doesn't like sports. Or maybe he does. I don't know. I lived with him for 2 years. Anyway, Tom, if you're listening to this, leave a comment down below telling me if you like sports or not. I don't think you
If
do,
you do
but
like sports, give us the update.
give us the sport report. Yeah. Fuck's sake. The reason I said Tom is because he's the only guest we've had on, and because we don't have a guest on this episode, I'm like, fuck. Could you imagine if we had a guest on? We could have just been like, put them on the spot and been like, hey, so tell us about the sports.
Brendan, tell us about the sports. Let's go.
I mean, normally it goes sports then weather, but we like to do things differently. We change it up. We change the formula a bit, you know. Anyway, fucking hell, what an intro. This has been the intro. Fuck. Anyway, so that's what we're doing this episode. But yeah, I thought we'd start with some news. And that news is Doctor Who related, because we can't have an episode of this podcast without talking about Doctor Who,
I think
obviously.
Resident Evil was our closest.
Yeah, but we still talked about
Yeah.
it. But yeah, so big thing happened. Big announcement. So basically what they did was a couple of days ago now, they announced this new thing. It's called Time Lord Victorious, and if anyone is familiar with Doctor Who, we will know that phrase harkens back to the good old Waters of Mars days, where the 10th Doctor, you know, he did some things, let's just say.
He made some questionable decisions and said some very mean-spirited things.
Yeah, he made some questionable decisions, and he decided that, you know what, fuck the universe. That's basically what happened.
And then someone died, and then he's like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry."
Yeah. So anyway, that was kind of this short-lasting thing. The series has just never addressed it since. It's just been kind of like this thing that happened, but then it's like, oh no, it's fine, you know? But, so what this is it's a multi-platform, multimedia fucking
thing.
We honestly don't know a lot of details about this.
No,
All we really
the details
know...
are very scarce.
Yeah. All we really know is the name of it. So it's obviously called Time Lord Victorious. They've got the catchy log line of they're fighting a whole new time war. which just sounds fucking sick. But it's basically this multi-platform crossover fucking multi-doctor kind of story thing. And it will feature the 8th Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and the 10th Doctor. And honestly, I would expect the 10th Doctor because it's called Time Lord Victorious.
That's kind of his thing.
It's his thing. Although, if you read some fan fictions out there, it's
Let's
not his
not
thing.
go back to that. Let's just keep going.
Don't worry, I wasn't going to go into it. I was just going to say, look, there's some fan fictions out there. I suggest reading them. They're amazing. And so anyway, so what I'll do is I'll go through this kind of, I guess, press statement article thing. But basically this is a collaboration between BBC Studios and basically
Most
all the
license holders.
all the Doctor Who license holders. So we're talking what are we talking about? We're talking Penguin, we're talking BBC Books, Doctor Who Magazine, Titan Comics, Big Finish, Escape Hunt, and Immersive Everywhere. They are all the current partners that have been announced, but I'm sure there's probably some other things maybe happening as well. Who knows? But essentially, it's a collaboration between all of these different companies and the BBC to create this multi-platform story that's going to span, comics, books,
Audios.
video games, audios, all that kind of stuff, right? Apparently escape rooms and,
They're
just
they're
stuff.
pushing it for this. They're really going all out with their fucking expenditure for this series.
Yeah, I mean, look, listen, I think the escape rooms is immersive theater, vinyl.
What?
Vinyl. So there we go, vinyl. But essentially, I here's the thing. At the moment, the escape rooms is probably a big maybe into this announcement because, I mean, this isn't something that's happening until September, so, it's probably something that can happen. But given how the coronavirus situation is in the UK right now, it may be likely that the escape rooms might, and the immersive theatre part of it might have to go. So it's possible that those kind of elements of this project are kind of up in the air at the moment.
You know what I would pay to see if the general public couldn't do the escape room? Get David Tennant, get Paul McGann, and get a couple of other actors from the show and get them to do the escape room while filming it so that everyone else can watch it.
Get all these people to do it. And then at the end of the escape room, Christopher Eccleston's just like, hello!
Then leaves.
Fantastic, and then just leaves. It's like the entire escape room is you've got to free the 9th Doctor. So they're going, they're working, and then boom, surprise, it's Christopher Eccleston just standing there, and he's like, I love that. But yeah, so obviously they're talking of Chris. I'll just quickly read through this press statement here, and then we can kind of just go into it a little bit. But so essentially, where the logline is, follow several doctors across space and time as they defend their home planet from a terrible race. This is a story like no other. We've already talked about what expands, so Time Lord Victorious will launch in September 2020, over 12 weeks, with products and experiences releasing from September until January 2021. The Time Lord Victorious will be set within the dark times at the start of the universe, when the Eternals were young. When even the Eternals were young. Features the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors travelling through space and time as they defend the universe from a terrible race. As well as 3 Doctors, companion Rose Tyler, and monsters including the Daleks and the Ood will feature, plus more to be revealed over the coming months as other projects are announced. So, we've actually got this is also produced. There's like an overseer of this. There's a producer overseeing the entire project. His name's James Goss. I have no idea who that is.
James Goss does a lot of the book related things, to my knowledge.
Okay, cool. Well, so he knows what's up. So anyway, he's quoted as saying BBC Studios Doctor Who licensees fuck, that's a mouthful, have come together to tell an amazing, epic one that's full of monsters, fun, and heart. All strands of the story unite into a mighty patchwork that ranges from one end of the universe to the next. There's more to be revealed, but the enthusiasm and ideas which the licensees have come up with are breathtaking. It's going to be so much fun. End quote. So, it's a thing.
Yeah.
It's yeah. The first thing that comes to mind with this, the very first thing, is how fucking expensive is this gonna be?
It's easily the biggest marketing push BBC has done for this series since, I dare say, David Tennant's time, early Matt Smith.
Yeah. And here's an interesting thing is the BBC are very much pushing this. They don't normally push Big Finish stuff.
No.
Or, you know, like the books and things. Like, they're not, the BBC themselves aren't usually the ones to push this. Because they're, you know, like all of these companies like Big Finish and Penguins, they all kind of do their own thing. Yeah. And the BBC just kind of does the TV show. But like this was tweeted out on the BBC accounts, on the Doctor Who account, you know, like things were there seems to be a big push from the BBC here, and it's not just because it's a big multi-platform thing. I would say there's probably a lot of funding direct from the BBC going into this as well.
Yes.
Now, depending on who you are and where you go on the internet, you'll probably hear a lot of spin regarding this.
Damage control.
Yeah, and it's damage control for Series 12 and all that. And this very much does harken back to the heyday of Doctor Who, because even though Doctor Who got big in the Matt Smith era, I would argue that wasn't really its heyday, more just got big in America. It kind of... Even looking back on it now, it was kind of only big for like season 5 or so, maybe a bit of 6.
Season 6 is kind of where it hit its peak, and then
it kind of went downhill. And then I think it came back up. Interest spiked again with the 50th anniversary, and then that was kind of it. But the heyday of Doctor Who is the Russell T Davies era. Like, it's the David Tennant era. Like, that is the heyday of modern Doctor Who. That's when the show was at its most popular. That's when the show was fucking everywhere. Like, I mean, everywhere. So, you know, it's interesting, but yeah, you will get people online that will try and spin this as, you know, it's BBC doing damage control for the reaction to Series 12 and the new Doctor Who and all of this bullshit. The thing is none of that is factually true.
None of that is actually true, and if even if it is, I don't care. This is more new Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Who cares what it's in response to?
Yeah, but here's the thing, like, it can't be factually true, because when you think about it, Series 12 didn't end, like, Series 12 only ended not that long ago. Like, you know, we're at the start of May now, it basically ended at the beginning of that. So it's only been a couple of months. This kind of thing, what they've planned here, would have been in the works for a while, because you can't just plan something like this out of the blue. And not only with that, but obviously, you know, because of the ambition and the scale of this project, they would have been writing the story fucking last year. Like, this honestly would have been...
You need to get whoever's going to be in the audios on board. You need to get all of the licensees. And there's games involved, and games can be take
time to make,
but they do take time.
Yeah. I'll come back to the games in a sec, but you know, like, it's just, there is absolutely zero chance, like zero way it's even possible that this is any kind of reaction to modern Doctor Who. It just isn't. This is a separate fucking thing that's been in the works for a while. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this was like something that was pitched by fucking Big Finish at some point, and they were like, hey, this is actually pretty cool. But here's another angle you could look at it, and this is purely speculation, this is purely conjecture on my part, but what's interesting about this is the fact that the BBC is pushing it, like I said earlier, right? And the BBC never pushes this kind of stuff. No. They barely push the fucking main show, let alone the side stuff, right?
They'll push Praxeus.
they'll push Praxius. You got to make sure you push Praxius. The greatest episode of Doctor Who of all time.
But no, otherwise they're not known for pushing these things.
Yeah. So the fact that the BBC are pushing this is telling me, and this is, again, like I said, purely speculation, purely conjecture, but Chibnall said that he had a 5-year plan for Doctor Who, right?
Yep.
What if, and this is what I'm posing to you, what if this, like, even though Chibnall hasn't been kind of announced as having anything to do with this, and that's probably because, you know, he's working on Series 13 and beyond, what if something like this, or this, is actually part of his 5-year plan? Because just think about this for a second, right?
With the scale of this,
With the
yeah.
Yeah, with the scale, and not just the fact that the BBC are actually promoting this, which says to me that the BBC are. What this is saying to me is that this Time Lord Victorious thing is BBC considers canon.
Yeah.
And BBC wouldn't be pushing this if it didn't have something to do with something coming up. Alright?
If we think about the largest upcoming event in Doctor Who,
Would be the 60th anniversary.
It's the 60th anniversary.
So we've already, like, Chibnall's doing his own thing in the show. He's got the Timeless Children, and obviously the Timeless Children arc isn't done.
No.
That's gonna carry. I absolutely reckon that Timeless Children arc will carry into the 60th anniversary. Whether we have a Series 13, whether we have a Series 14, or whether we just have Series 13 and then the 60th, doesn't really matter what order things come in. I think his Timeless Children arc is going to expand into there, because I think, see, Chibnall said he had a 5-year plan, but I think what he means by 5 years is 5 seasons, not 5 literal years, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if this, at a later date, is going to somehow tie in to what Chibnall is planning for the 60th anniversary. I wouldn't be surprised. We could be wrong on this.
Yeah.
It might not tie in at all.
At this point, we have little to no information, where speculation is all we have at the moment.
But at this stage, no other Doctors have been announced. And it is kind of weird for them to do a big multi-Doctor thing. Like, I know Big Finish do multi-Doctor crossovers
it's kind
a lot.
of common for them.
But it's kind of weird for something like this.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I would say this has to tie into the 60th in some way, because let's look at the 60th anniversary. Like, I think best case scenario, you would have all the remaining surviving Doctors back in some form. Worst case scenario, I reckon, like, they would definitely be pushing for the likes of David Tennant and Matt Smith. Like, I don't know so much Peter Capaldi. Maybe I reckon he'll probably be in it as well, just because he's Peter Capaldi and he'll be.
It's Doctor Who. He's Peter Capaldi.
But I think the BBC would definitely, and Chibnall would definitely be pushing for David Tennant and Matt Smith, because they are the most, I guess, recognizable and the most promotable, I guess, of the current.
It's amazing that it has been 10 to 15 years since they were the face of Doctor Who, and yet they're still kind of the peak, the way Tom Baker is.
Tom Baker of the classic series. Yeah, exactly. I really want to see Paul McGann, personally.
Yes. Paul McGann,
just bring him back.
In his little role of Night of the Doctor, he has so much presence on screen. Kind of
he's so good.
The way, so I was watching Torchwood with Children First, which has Peter.
Okay, yeah.
That man can carry the screen by himself.
And he did. I mean, sorry, I was talking about Peter Capaldi.
Yeah, that's why I meant Peter Capaldi can carry the screen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what Paul McGann reminds me of sometimes.
Yeah, fair enough. Another possible for the 60th anniversary is that we are looking at the Chibnall has introduced the concept of the Timeless Children, the Timeless Doctors, whatever you want to call them. And then we got the Ruth Doctor. So it's entirely possible that the 60th is gonna revolve around that kind of those doctors as well. But like, I mean, Chibnall would be an idiot. The thing about Chibnall is he knows what he's doing. Like, I know the fan base thinks that he doesn't, but I mean, he's a very experienced showrunner and writer. He knows what he's doing, and I would think he would be smart enough to be like, okay, we need to get some other doctors in here as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, the Ruth Doctor appeared in the 60th, and I wouldn't be surprised if we were introduced to other doctors between now and then, because the Timeless Children is building to something. Like, it wasn't just the arc for Series 12. It's building to something. And I wouldn't be surprised, like I said, if this contributes to the overarching plan, the Chibnall master plan, if you will.
We've moved past the Cartmel master plan.
It's now the Chibnall master plan. But the interesting thing about this is that we have the Ninth Doctor in the lineup.
Yes.
Now, here's what I'm expecting, okay? I'm expecting fully the Ninth Doctor's involvement to be in
books and comics.
The books, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think so much in the audios.
However, the greatest surprise to me.
However, Christopher Eccleston has been very much opening up to Doctor Who in recent years. So much so that he's attending conventions. He actually attended this year. He attended Gallifrey 1. Back before everything turned to shit. And Gallifrey 1 is a Doctor Who specific convention, right? So he actually went to that, and I was watching some YouTubers who actually went to that, and they were talking about it, and he was a little... Being Christopher Eccleston, he was very anxious about going to a Doctor Who specific convention, and he wasn't quite sure how he was going to be received, but apparently he was talking in a panel about, how much, like, love and acceptance he gets from the fan base. So I would say that right now with this, I would say the chances are actually higher than they have ever been that Christopher Eccleston is going to return.
He has been notably vocal against Big Finish, particularly. I think there was one time where it was like, if they asked, I would, and then one of the Big Finish employees was like, "You hear that, guys? If you ask him, he'll do it." And then he was like, "Yeah, you know what? No, you fucked it."
But like, I mean, look, Christopher Eccleston, I think, the thing is he's been warming up to it, and I think, I don't think he would necessarily ever want to return physically on screen. Although it would be nice maybe if he shot a little thing for this. That would be cool, because like recently they had the doctors, the big night in or whatever it was, and they had all the surviving doctors say thank you, except for Christopher Eccleston. So I still think he's very much... I don't think he considers himself part of that kind of group. I wouldn't be so... but he does... he is very opening up to the fan base, and I think if the fan base wants him to return, I have a feeling that he will do it for the fans. Eventually.
That is still on no, but
I still think it's likely that
the chances are higher than they've ever been.
Higher than they've ever been. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if he was announced for an audio. And even if he's not in an audio, Big Finish have been doing stuff with impressionists for him. So I'm sure...
Nick Briggs usually does.
Yeah.
Christopher. So that would be...
So I'm pretty... So obviously the Ninth Doctor will be involved in the audios, I think.
It just won't be Christopher Eccleston.
But then... Who knows? I mean, we're all in lockdown. Maybe he's doing literally nothing else. Maybe they could be just like, "Hey, Chris, can you just record a heap of lines just from home?
Here's some money. You're at home. Can you please do this?"
Yeah. I mean, look, listen. I'm sure he would do it for the money, because he's been very vocal that, like back before he started attending conventions, he was very much like, "I want to make my money from acting, not from conventions." Yes. But then he's also like, but there is a lot of money involved in conventions. And then what happened? He started doing conventions, and now he's doing conventions regularly. He does a lot of conventions now. Not as much as some other actors out there, but like in the past, 3-4 years, he's done quite a few.
For a man who's never done them before, it's really picked up.
Yeah, and so I would love for him because I know there's this guy. I don't know if you've seen the picture of him and Matt Smith,
No.
at a convention, but they basically like met up with each other at a convention and hugged each other and whatnot. And there's like a little clip of it. And I was like, oh, it's so cute to see Chris Eccleston just interacting with other Doctor Who actors. Um, but yeah, look, I would say never. I think the chances are highly likely, and I think it for something like this, it's probably going to happen. I think Christopher Eccleston would be the type of guy that wouldn't just do it for any story.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the other doctors are, been returning to Big Finish to do just whatever. I think he'd be the type of person that would be like very particular about the type of story being told, and just the sheer scale of this and the sheer like what's just going on. I feel like this would be something that maybe he would be like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on board
Yeah.
with this. So who knows? Well, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. But I think the fact that he's been announced, well, the Ninth Doctor's been announced as part of the lineup on the initial announcement, I think says,
There is a notable connection here.
yeah,
All three surviving, like, because obviously you can't get John Hurt anymore. Um,
yeah.
the
Because
three
John Hurt would have
doctors,
100% been involved with
yeah,
this if.
this is very Time War Doctor centric, which spans 8 to 10,
Mm,
because
yeah.
10 is the last remnant of the Time War saga,
Yeah.
particularly. But no, never say never. No matter what
I,
happens, the man's a treasure. We all love Christopher Eccleston.
we all love Christopher Eccleston, yeah.
But yeah, I guess,
Um,
do you have anything
but
else?
Well, yeah, I was just going to talk about the game side of things.
Yeah,
So, Maze Theory, who recently released
Edge
the
of Time,
Edge of Time
which,
VR
if you're not a fan, you
game.
probably won't get it, but it's a nice little thing.
Though I haven't played it, nor have I seen any footage beyond the trailers. And the reason why I haven't is because I'm going to cover it eventually in my Doctor Who game series on my channel, so I want to
Completely
leave it
fair.
until then.
I have
Um,
played it, and it's decent fun if you're a fan of the show.
yeah, I sold my VR, so I don't have a PSVR anymore. So
That kind of puts a
I'm
wrench in things.
yeah, I'm kind of waiting to either if I can because the person I sold it to still has it. So I'm maybe just gonna be like, hey, can I just borrow it back and I'll just play this one thing and capture the footage so I can talk about it. So I'm just waiting for the time. Excuse me. I'm just waiting for the time to kind of slip it in because right now the Eternity Clock is my focus, and then after that, I'm not quite sure what Doctor Who game I want to cover next. At this stage, I just got the adventure games on disc, which is exciting. So I've got that. There's Lego Dimensions, Destiny of the Doctors, fucking Doctor Who Top Trumps. I should cover that.
Fucking
Fuck yeah.
classic.
It is a classic. I just don't have a power cable for my PS2.
Oh,
But yeah, actually, it's not the power cable. I've got the right. I don't have the adapter because mine's the PS2 Slim and it needs the adapter.
oh,
So yeah, I don't have that. I need to buy one of those. But yeah, so I'm not sure what I'm going to cover next. But definitely Doctor Who: The Eternity Clock is coming up. So look forward to that. But yeah, I will cover the VR stuff, and I really hope that I wouldn't be. I'd be completely fine if the part of this project is another VR game. I don't mind that. I think VR is a good thing for Doctor Who. I think there's very few gaming experiences that can really work for the concept
yeah.
of Doctor Who. Um, but yeah, I'd be definitely open to that. But I would actually like a game. Like, let's do a game. Like, it doesn't. It can be on the same similar kind of budget as the Eternity Clock or the adventure games. I don't care. Just give us a game. Like, let's do something cool with this because, like, this is a fucking cool concept. So let's just do something cool with it. But if it is a VR experience and because it's Maze Theory, it's probably most likely going to be.
Yeah.
Notice they say games though.
Yeah,
They
it
don't
is
just say
plural.
game. It's plural. So I reckon. I mean, that could simply just refer to stuff on the Doctor
Doctor
Who
Who: The
website.
Adventure Game Season 3. Let's go.
Yes, let's go. Let's do it. I'm so excited. Yeah, anyway, look, I'm excited for the gaming aspect of it, and I really hope there's some interesting stuff.
And I'll
Even if it's.
I'll cover the books because we will be returning to talk about this next year
We
when
will.
it's all said and done.
I think the problem is there's going to be too much for me to afford to buy. So I will either, depending on whether it's a VR game or not, I'll either cover the game side of things. You can do the books, and comics and whatever. And then maybe if there's audios, hopefully it's not too expensive. Like I might put a bit of money aside now so I can afford to maybe get the audios, because I definitely like to experience the audio side.
Is it weird how excited I am for the action figure side? It just
Oh
reminds me
god,
that
that's right. There's an action figure
yeah,
side to this as well.
it just reminds me
You know
there's
what?
not been detailed Doctor Who action figures since David Tennant's era.
No, they actually just released the Dalek from Resolution not long ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like a year and a half later. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, one thing I do want to quickly mention before we move on is the graphic that was made to promote
Yes,
this. It's so fucking cool.
we got
It's
no
it's
right.
literally I'm looking. I look, listen. I may do something that I never do, and I might edit it in,
Yeah,
just so people listening on watching on YouTube can see it. I probably won't, to be honest, because I can't be bothered. But if I don't, just
search
Google
up
search
Time
Time
Lord
Lord
Victorious
Victorious.
and it will be
You'll find it. But it looks so cool. You've got like, my favorite part of this. You got some new Dalek designs there as well. There's a couple of new Dalek designs. We got some ships up in the top corner, which I believe have been ships in the comics or something. You've got the 10th Doctor photo, which is my favorite part of the
I like how
favorite part.
still you can see the suit underneath the Gallifrey.
Yeah, yeah. So that is a promotional image that
Oh my!
was released for End of Time, but they've just heavily edited it
It,
and added the Time Lord robes over the top, but it works really
I've
well.
only just seen this. There's an Ood in a fucking tuxedo.
I was gonna bring that up. The Ood in the tuxedo is fucking amazing. Like he's looking all dapper and suave. I love it.
Good.
Ah,
Then yeah, we got our classic
we got Billy
Dalek.
Piper down at the bottom.
Yeah, fucking slave rose apparently.
Slave Rose. She's in what looks like a dress. So maybe her, and also if you look at the actual image they've used, I mean the body's not, because often Big Finish the artwork is used with stand-ins and then they
Yeah.
just edit the faces on or whatever. But it's actually season one Rose from the looks of it.
Mm.
So that could be interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if that is season one Rose. It's definitely not Bad Wolf Rose,
No.
because it's just not. But what's interesting about that is that she looks like she's covered in blood.
I find it interesting because the way she's placed on the cover is
Yeah,
she's very purposely placed in front of what looks like evil 10th Doctor,
yeah.
who's notoriously gone downhill mentally since Rose disappeared.
Ah, yes.
Um, and she's kind of placed smaller in front of him. You'd think Rose being one of the main like
Yeah,
best.
the one of the main things that leads to this as well.
Um, I don't know. I think the Time Lord Victorious 10 is up to some really shitty shit with Rose
Is
there.
Yeah, I think here's the thing. And this is the thing. Like, obviously, we know literally nothing about this.
Yes, this is
In
everything
terms of
speculation.
like but like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's either an alternative universe situation, or if it's like the 10th Doctor actually does go bad, but then what happens at the end is time is reversed or whatever.
Mm.
Um, I know that's a bit of a cop out ending, but I mean,
Doctor
in
Who's
terms
known
of
for cop out endings.
yeah, but in terms of what they're doing here, like, there's really only two options you have. You can't really do this and then try and slip it in
Yeah,
somewhere,
Ten's
because
era,
when you
and
real
especially the Time Lord Victorious segment, is set in stone.
yeah, but not just that, like, it's also you couldn't slip it in there, because if you think about it, if you added this in, if this was something that stayed with the Doctor, it would fundamentally change the
You
Doctor
thought
as a
Timeless
character.
Child fucked it.
Yeah. So I do reckon, and actually the interesting thing is, I don't know if you've read the Four Doctors comic.
I've not, but I do know of the small segment with that.
Yeah, so the Four Doctors comic does actually explore the whole Time Lord Victorious thing, and in the comic, basically, he didn't save Wilf in the end of time, and he chose to save himself and let Wilf die, and that's kind of what led to everything.
Mm.
So, I mean, I don't consider the comic book storylines canon. Although, like I did say to you previously, recently, they really need to bring the fucking Corsair into the series and
Yes.
make Pirate
I
Corsair
have that
canon.
comic and I agree. And Neil Gaiman did say he'd be interested in a Big Finish Corsair series.
Let's do a big Finnish Corsair series. I want pirate adventures in space. Give me that.
Plus, you can have the weirdest tie-in back to the fucking Curse of the Black Spot cast.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Love it. Anyway, I think we should move on.
Yes,
But
we
that's Time
will
Lord
cover more of
Victorious.
this when it comes
We
up.
we will cover it, or maybe Lewin will cover it. It really depends on how much money I have to whether I cover
I'm
it
the
or not.
most
But
likely to splurge.
I will look at the wiki. We'll do that. How about I look at the wiki so I know what the fuck you're talking about, and you can actually experience. Anyway, but yeah,
Star
so
Wars Day.
we're not up to that yet. We've got to do the catch up first. We're doing it very late in this episode. We probably should have done catch up first, but that's okay. We'll keep this brief so we can talk about Mandalorian. But yeah, what have you been up to lately? What have you been watching, playing, doing?
I've been watching The Mandalorian.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay, well, there
this
we go.
is an amazing thing. Otherwise, I've just been playing some of my old Nintendo Wii, booted that up, had a bit of fun.
What were you playing? Sorry, you cut out for me.
My Nintendo Wii, the
Oh, yeah.
the classic Nintendo console that came before the other one that wasn't so classic.
Yeah.
Uh, good shit.
Did you actually play the Eternity Clock up until the bit that we were talking about last time?
No.
The Cybermen bit
Wait,
to see if
Simon?
the controls. Yeah, you know the bit we were
Yes.
talking about where like you got the
On the PS
railways.
Vita, it isn't as delayed.
Okay, that's interesting.
It might just be your controller, or it might be that the game is not optimized properly on the PlayStation version, which is
Look, it doesn't matter anyway. Who cares? Look, listen, it doesn't matter, but you've just given me content for my video, so I'm going to take note of that. Just to note, I'll be like, so on the PS Vita version, apparently it's not as fucked. So there we go. It's probably why the Vita version is the only version you can buy now. um, but yeah, so you've been, just playing a bit of Nintendo
playing
Wii.
some Zeldas,
Yeah. How's that been?
That's been good. I have not played the game I'm playing before, so I'm just enjoying my time with it.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
What about you? What have you been up to?
I actually took notes of this because I want to keep this brief, but let me just go to my notes. Okay, so it's finally happened. The ongoing saga here on the catch-up segment. I finished Resident Evil 2.
Hey, you did say last time you'd probably be finished by now.
Yeah, and I did finish it within a couple of days of after we recorded the last podcast. But yeah, I finished Leon's campaign. Got to the end of that, and I've actually started Resident Evil 3. The last thing I played in Resident Evil 3 was the second Nemesis boss fight, and I'm now as Carlos in the hospital.
Nice.
So that's where I'm up to in Resi 3.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't have far left.
Yeah, I thought I wouldn't have that much left because I've been playing for about 4 hours now. So I was like, yeah, so I've been playing Resi for about 4 hours now, and I'm like, yeah, so the game's about 5 hours long, give or take, depending on, how much you fucking around you do. So yeah, I've been playing that, so that's been good. I actually had a go at Jill Valentine in Resistance as well.
Yeah, how'd that go?
It was weird because I was expecting not to get a game as Jill Valentine at all because I was like, she's the new character, everyone's going to want to play as her. Literally first go, I got Jill Valentine. Second go, I got Jill Valentine. Third go, I got Jill Valentine. I leveled her up to like level 4
Did you get
very
a
quickly.
Sarah Connor like outfit for it?
No, I don't have the outfits. They're in the cosmetic
That's
boxes. But funny thing with that Sarah, there's I don't know if it's a Sarah Connor outfit, but there's one outfit called Retribution, which is basically a variation on Alice's outfit in Resident Evil Retribution. I don't know if that's deliberate. I don't think it's deliberate. I think it's just kind of like because I like one thing I've noticed is the Jill Valentine model does look very similar to Mila Jovovich. In a few in some kind of like in certain ways I'm like oh yeah, so like I don't know if that's like a reference or whatever, but it is what it is. But yeah, I've been enjoying playing Jill Valentine. I leveled her up a few levels. Her ability in the game is basically because like you know how we are talking about in the last episode, there's like the passive abilities and then
yep.
there's like your secondary ability and your main. So Jill Valentine's main ability is very similar to Becca's ability in the sense that I don't know if you get unlimited ammo. I seem to have this in my mind that you get unlimited ammo with Jill Valentine's ability, but she basically has this big fuck off pistol gun thing that's really powerful and does a lot of damage.
Oh yeah,
And I think you have unlimited ammo for it. I think.
it's very
But that's like her ultimate ability. It's very useful for if the mastermind has used their ult. Very useful for that. But beyond that, I don't think there's any need to use this ability because, I think you're just better off saving it because just using it on the generic monsters and stuff in the game, I just don't think there's any real point to it.
yeah.
So in my honest opinion, it's not the best ability in the game. You would think Jill Valentine being the face of Resident Evil 3 and being the only Resident Evil character that's a survivor in this game at this time, you would think her ability would be this big thing, but it really isn't. But she also has her dodge ability from
Oh,
the
that's handy.
campaign. So that's what I'll say. It's very handy to have the dodge. It's great when Mr. X is coming up to you in a game of Resistance and you just fucking dodge out of the way and just yeet on out of there. It's great. So her dodge is very useful. And I'd say Jill just as she plays like all the other characters, but her dodge is very very handy. So I enjoy playing as Jill. But I can see I don't know really what the general consensus is in the Resident Evil fan base, I guess. But I can see why not many people were picking her and why I was... Because that first game, I didn't pick her straight away because I wasn't expecting to get her anyway. So I just picked my main, Becca. And then no one picked Jill. So I was like, well, fuck it. I'm going to pick Jill. The same thing happened in the second game. So I can kind of see maybe why people aren't picking Jill as much as I thought they were going to. It's probably just for the ultimate ability because the other characters in the game do have better abilities. But Jill's dodge is a fucking game changer. So I played a bit of that.
Hey.
I've been playing Rainbow Six Siege.
Bring the old days back.
Yeah, I bought Siege because I've been watching a Siege YouTuber. And basically I was just like, fuck, I missed this game. And I don't own it anymore. I traded it in ages ago. So I decided to buy it again. I bought it digitally. I bought the digital deluxe edition or whatever it was. So this was actually an edition of the game from 2017, I think. But it was super cheap on PSN. Like, super fucking cheap. It was on special. I think it was like $15. Where that game, even that edition is still like, I think the standard price for that edition is like $50 or something. So I paid $15, got it. And the thing about this edition is it only gives me all the year 1 and 2 operators, which I had most of them anyway because I had unlocked them previously. I won't be buying the yearly season passes to unlock the other characters. I'll just unlock the ones I want to play as and whatever. But I have all the year 1 and 2. It's been great. It's been fun just jumping back into this game. I'm pretty sure because I'm quite a high level in that game as well, but because I haven't played it for like 2 years, I jumped in and I'm not familiar with the new maps at all. Like so the very first game I had, I was at this new map, and basically people kept I kept getting kicked from games, or like voted to kicked, and I think the reason why was because I had no idea what the fuck I was doing on these maps, and because I'm such a high level, I think people just assumed I was throwing. So I have contemplated making another PSN account just so I can play experience and actually get used to these maps. So I without that happening, so I can be a low level, so people won't just vote to kick me. But that's been kind of happening, but that kind of stopped recently because I started getting back into the groove a bit, but I'm still not quite familiar with the new maps, so it's a bit of a thing. But that was happening, I remember, and the game kept matchmaking me to the same game over and over again. It happened like 3 times, so I got matchmaked into this game, got kicked, and then match made back into it, and then they kicked me again, and then the same thing happened again, and I was like, fuck. So it's cool, but I haven't really played as any of the newer heroes, but I did buy the Lara Croft skin for Ash.
Of course, you did say you were gonna do that.
I did do it. I did it. I have it. Love it. But yeah, other than that, like I've decided to take this opportunity to play as some of the operators that I never used to play as well, just to kind of suss some other characters out, and I've been having a bit of fun doing that. But yeah, it's been good. I'm enjoying it. I fucking love that game so much, and I miss it.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. The only other thing I've been doing is I just started watching the new Ghost in the Shell series on Netflix.
3D animated one on Netflix?
Yeah, so Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex 2045.
Any good?
I'm enjoying it, yeah. Essentially, it's a continuation of the old Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex series, essentially. So, that was a series from the early 2000s. Yeah. I think it was like 2000 whatever. There was Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, and then there was Second Gig, which was like the second season, and then they had a movie called Solid State Society, which kind of wrapped that story up. So this series is a continuation. This is actually the first continuation of an old Ghost in the Shell property, because they don't usually do continuations, because Ghost in the Shell is kind of like every new thing is like its own continuity that is separate from everything else. So you've got like the continuity of the original anime, which is like the original anime, the masterpiece that it is, and its sequel, and then you have Standalone Complex, which is like season 1, season 2, Solid State Society, and now this new series. And then they did Ghost in the Shell Arise, which is like a prequel series, but it was also set in its own continuity. Okay. And that was basically all about the formation of Section 9. It was the origin of how that kind of team was formed. And then they did a movie as well, which was very creatively titled Ghost in the Shell, the New Movie. That was a direct. And then, of course, you've got the Scarlett Johansson continuity with the live-action American one. But yeah, this is like the first series that's kind of continued on from a previous existing continuity. So this is set 10 years... I think Solid State Society was set in 2035, I'm pretty sure. But essentially, this is set 10 years later. It is a bit jarring with a different animation style. Like, I kind of wish they just kept the same animation from the original series. But it is kind of a continuation of that. It's set in 2045, obviously, by the title. But basically, the kind of status quo has shifted a lot since the original series. So, essentially, there's been essentially, what's happened is it's essentially like a cyberpunk post-apocalyptic kind of world in this new series, kind of. Yeah. What happened was basically the economy of the world collapsed, the society collapsed, and now you've got like all, these factions that are basically at war with each other. You've got all these like just citizens that are just, like part of all these factions and, whatever. But, like, we're in a world where you can sell a burrito wrap or whatever for like $1,500. Like there's the entire status quo of the world has shifted from the original series. And Major Motoko Kusanagi and her like team are now mercenaries. They no longer work for the Japanese government with Public Security Section 9 because it doesn't exist anymore. So they're now just mercenaries. They work for the highest, whoever pays them. Obviously, mercenaries. The series has been Americanized slightly. Given what I've watched so far has actually been set in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're kind of in Mexico, which I guess isn't really America.
The
But you know,
Americas.
like it's been Americanized to be set more in the Western world rather than Japan. But I'm pretty sure they go back to Japan because I know in this series they reform Section 9 and follow the plot there. So I'm pretty sure they're going to end up back in Japan eventually. But I've watched about 6 episodes, 6 episodes. It's a 12 episode series. And look, I'm really enjoying it. I think it's fun. There's no English dub yet, but I do know that all the original cast have returned from the original series to voice the characters. So I'm pretty excited for the English dub, and I'm currently watching it with the Japanese. But eventually, when the English dub is released, I'm going to rewatch it again with the English dub because Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex is one of the few animes I will actually watch the English dub for because I genuinely think the English dub is better than the Japanese dub. I think the actors are much more... Their performances are a lot better than what you get from the Japanese dub. But that's just my personal opinion. That's why I prefer it. But I think it's just because I initially watched it with the English dub, so those actors are just ingrained in my mind as those characters. But yeah, so they're returning, but at the moment that option's not available. And there's a little notification that comes up on Netflix saying that when you start an episode, it says... because you know how Netflix brings up like the rating and whatever up in the top corner when you click on something.
Yeah.
So it comes up and says, it says our voice actors' safety is our priority. So some language options are not available at this time. And so the only audio option is Japanese. But interestingly, the trailer has an English dub. So
Maybe they got some of the select lines done but couldn't get all the way through production.
Yeah. So I would say, yeah, but also a lot of what's in the trailer is from the earlier episodes as well, like the first 5 or so episodes. So I feel like maybe they've done like half the series, or maybe they've just done the specific lines for the trailer, but they haven't actually recorded all the dialogue yet, which is why there's no English dub. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that to come out. I might even maybe go out of my way to rewatch the entirety of Standalone Complex and then rewatch this. That could be fun, but I'm enjoying it. Yeah, a lot of Ghost in the Shell fans don't like it, which is nothing new. So but in terms of the Ghost in the Shell fan base, Standalone Complex is considered like... And to me, when I think of Ghost in the Shell, I don't think of that original anime movie. I actually think of Standalone Complex. Like, that's more what Ghost in the Shell is than what the original anime movie was. And I'm not saying the anime movie is bad or anything, by the way. Like, it's a fucking masterpiece.
It's just that you consider the anime
the series...
the series point for you.
Yeah, that's more what Ghost in the Shell is. But it's so good. Like, the original series is so fucking good.
I will watch it one day.
I've got multiple copies of it. I have the complete Standalone Complex Blu-ray box set, which comes with Season 1, Second Gig, and the Solid State Society film. Also has an art book and some, like, little wall card thingies. I have Second Gig on DVD, and I have the OVAs, which, for those who don't know, an OVA is basically like a DVD release of... like a condensed versions of the series, essentially. So I have the OVAs of Season 1, 2, and then I also have Solid State Society as a separate release as well. One thing I don't like about the OVAs is the OVAs don't have the original... or at least Motoko Kusanagi isn't the original voice actress from the series. They've dubbed her over with a different actress in the OVAs, and I'm not a big fan of it. That's why I don't usually watch them. But I have them. So, you know, what I'm saying is I've got some Ghost in the Shell. That's what I'm telling you. But yeah, other than that, that's all I've really been doing. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm going to finish it probably, because they're only like 20-minute episodes too. They're really short, so
yeah,
Probably finish it at some point. Yeah. Anyway, do you know what else I've been watching?
What else have you been watching?
I've been on Disney Plus.
Ah, yes, our sponsors.
Yep, sponsors of this week's episode.
Yep.
Click the link in the description below to get a free a free month's trial to Disney
Are you
Plus.
just sending
And
them to the create account screen?
yep, I'm gonna put that link in there too. I'm gonna put the link in the description to the create account screen.
It's your way they're getting free subscription out of us.
And you only get 7 days as well. You don't get 30. But you know what? It's fine. Use code Turning Point to get. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Look, listen. We've been on Disney Plus. Yes, probably. But look, listen. Who's gonna listen to this part? So it's fine. So we've been watching Disney Plus. Specifically, we've been watching Mandalorian. And I thought we could talk about that because it is Star Wars Day. I know we haven't talked about a lot of Star Wars so far, but it is Star Wars Day, so we're going to talk some Star Wars. And I thought fucking Mandalorian is the thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, it was the thing to talk about 4 months ago.
It's still a
but,
thing.
You know, it's still a thing. But yeah, what'd you think of Mandalorian?
Mandalorian was a TV series. In the end, I liked it.
You liked
I
it?
liked it. I'm excited for season 2.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
in the most summarized way, I enjoyed the series. I didn't find fault in many things. There was a few things I found a little bit of fault in, but we'll get into that. And I am excited for season 2.
Sweet. I'm pretty excited for season 2 as well. It's coming out in October.
Ah, fuck, that's quick.
Yeah. I have a theory behind that. I think they shot season 1 and 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened because they literally announced season 2 so fucking quickly and then they're like, oh yeah, it's coming out in October. And they haven't said anything about delays because of COVID-19. So I reckon they shot season 2 last year.
Yeah, that's up.
They shot season 2 of season 1, and that's why that's on track to still come out. It's like they shot the Marvel shows quite a while ago. I'm pretty sure as well, because like they had
of them are still awaiting to go back to production.
Yeah, but I think like you know, because we had the footage. I think it was at Comic-Con last year. Maybe we had like the footage, the trailer. Or it might have been maybe at a Disney thingy, I don't know, but there was like the trailer with like the little snippets of footage from Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision and all that. So yeah, I think Disney Plus have been Disney have been kind of shooting this stuff quite far in advance. So I think that's why we're getting a season 2 so soon. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and like here's the thing. This is what I want to say. My overall note for this film, and I told you beforehand we were going to have some hot takes from me.
I remember.
Some spicy hot takes. So get ready, because I'm going to basically say, I'm going to piss off the Star Wars fan base with this. But Mandalorian is, in my view, and remember this is just my humble opinion.
Yep.
But in my view, Mandalorian is... I don't know if it's my absolute favorite Star Wars thing, but I like it so much more than any of the films. And I mean any of the films. Like, I'm talking original trilogy here. Like, I think Mandalorian is better than any of the Star Wars films.
Okay.
It's a big fucking hot take right there.
I will not challenge you. I don't quite hold the same opinion, but I don't hate the series enough for me to actually...
I'll explain myself. Alright, and I'll explain myself. Now, the original trilogy is fucking masterpiece. Okay, well, you know, the Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back are masterpieces of film. Return of the Jedi is still fucking great. I love it, but it's not as great, right? But the reason why I like Mandalorian more is because it's the type of Star Wars that I want. I'm so over all this dark side versus light side crap. I don't care anymore, right? Like, and I'm not just talking about the sequel
It's kind
trilogy.
of
Like,
done to death at this point.
I mean the whole Jedi, Sith, dark side, light side, chosen one, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, the storyline's great in the original trilogy. The storyline's great in prequels, sequels, whatever. Doesn't matter, right? And I still enjoy those films, and I'm not saying any of them are bad. I'm saying I prefer what Mandalorian does more, because Mandalorian does what I've always wanted from Star Wars, and that is just a story about a dude in the universe. Doesn't It's not a big scale story, it doesn't tie into anything, it's just exists, and he's just this random dude, and that's what Mandalorian is. Mandalorian, because I know obviously in the lead up there was a lot of speculation of, well, is the Mandalorian Boba Fett, all that kind of stuff, and then they confirmed, they're like, no, this is a new character, and I was like, great, because if it was Boba Fett I wouldn't care about it as
Yeah.
much. And I just love it. He's literally, like, that's what this series is. He's literally just a guy that exists in this universe, that is going about his business, doing his thing. He gets caught up in this story with Baby Yoda and all that, but even then, even though he gets caught up, it's not this big scale thing.
No.
It's not this big. It's literally just a dude flying around space. He's a bounty hunter. He's got to look after this little baby Yoda, and that's it. That's the story. And this is what I want from Star Wars. I don't want any of this big Avengers Endgame ripoff stuff, right? I want grounded Star Wars stories that don't tie into the saga. And this is the one thing that I didn't like about the spin-off films, right? Rogue One and Solo. I like Solo, and the reason why I like Solo is because it's pretty much what Mandalorian is. It's basically just an adventure with, at the time, Han Solo, who isn't this big person in the Star Wars universe like he later becomes, right? He's just a guy. That's what I love about Solo. It's just an adventure. It does set up some things, but it's really just an adventure. It's just this thing. Rogue One I don't like, because I don't like how Disney's insistence on tying everything into the original trilogy. I don't like that. Like, I get it, it's iconic, and obviously Mandalorian does a bit of that as well, but this is what I want. Just give me this. Just stuff like this. I don't care about Jedi. We've done Jedi, we've done Sith. It's done. It's in the past. Let's move on and do some different shit. That's why I like it. Okay. I don't think it's as good as... I think I like Clone Wars more, though. I am going to say, I know that contradicts literally everything I just said, but I do think I like Clone Wars a lot more than I don't know, I'm kind of in two minds about it. I don't know if Mandalorian is like my absolute favorite Star Wars thing, or whether Clone Wars is, because I really have a soft spot for Clone Wars. I love Clone Wars, and Clone Wars is very much that whole Jedi versus Sith thing, but it's not really about that. It's more about the fucking war, and the Clone Wars is such a cool thing. So I don't know. I'm kind of in two minds about it, but The Mandalorian is the type of Star Wars I want to see moving forward. I don't give a shit about the big scale stuff. Like,
The
we've
big
done it. We've
scale's
done
pretty
9.
much finitoed for now.
Yeah, we've done 9 movies of it. We don't need any more Skywalker saga. We don't need any more Jedi versus Sith. Let's just tell some real fucking stories. And that's what Mandalorian does. And that's why I think it's better than the movies, and that's only because it's the type of Star Wars I want. That's it.
I did actually have towards its feel is I'm a very notoriously known for my love of the Old West and
It is very much got
Western.
that.
It is
It's very much got that Western feel. Right down. I actually have a note here. The soundtrack is very kind of. Where did I write it? I wrote it somewhere here. There's also a really solid soundtrack that it's very unique to Star Wars. I mean, like, it doesn't quite have that Star Wars soundtrack. It's very much its own unique kind of westerny kind of vibe, and
I did
I love
with
that.
the music. I did say that in general it was really good music. It's well composed. My only argument
Yeah.
with the music is sometimes it does not fit some of the scenes that it's in. That was like sometimes you'd be watching Mando do something like mundane as shit on his ship, and the music would
Yeah.
have this weird tension to the point where you're believing something is going to happen, and then it moves
Yeah.
faster, and it doesn't feel like it was meant to give you that tension. It just feels like they got the music wrong in that segment.
Yeah.
But the music in itself, separated from the
It's
scenes, is
so
very
good.
good.
And it separates it from anything else in Star
Mm.
Wars.
And that was my
And
comment about the feel of the show as well. Is the space
yeah,
western feel only the only other movie or Star Wars thing that really harkens to that is Solo. Um,
yeah. But even then, Solo's more like
yeah,
heist kind of
it's
thing.
only really
Like
when
it's more,
Beckett is involved that it gets its kind of western
yeah.
feel.
It's more of the. Do you know what Solo is? Solo is a Fast and Furious film of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, yep, that's adequate.
That's a pretty accurate description. But yeah, no, I really I love the tone, and I
Yes.
think that's what really makes this series
It
work. It really
sets
sets it
itself
apart.
outside of what is status quo Star Wars.
Yeah, it sets itself outside of what Star Wars is, or what we know Star Wars to be,
Yeah,
I guess. And like obviously that's a very risky thing to do as well. It could either go one way or the other, but I think The Mandalorian is so well made
yes,
that and so well written that in this age of everyone hating on Disney, no one actually hates on Mandalorian because they're like, hey, Disney actually did good with this.
mm,
And it's like, well, I mean, look at the creative team behind it. You've got
yes.
fucking John Favreau
Dave Filoni.
and Dave Filoni. And Dave Filoni has knows the Star Wars
Yeah,
universe inside and
if
out. I mean,
someone
he's
were
been
to go past George Lucas, it would be him.
it would be Dave Filoni. I mean, Dave Filoni was working with George Lucas on Clone Wars back in the day. So like, I mean, he's done a lot since. Obviously, he's done Rebels, he's done Resistance. He's done a lot of the animated stuff. This is the first live action Star Wars series,
Yes.
which is really odd. I don't know why it's taken this long to do a live action Star Wars series. Um,
Yeah, I guess
I mean,
I think it's because now we're in the age of streaming where risks are less mitigated or they're mitigated.
yeah,
Where on TV a network has to go, will this get us views and how much money we can give you? Streaming seems to have this thing where they're like, we will throw bundles of cash at you to take a risk.
yeah. And I mean, look, listen, it's I think it's a risk that's paid off
Yes.
because it's a very popular series. It really did well with the Star Wars fan base and everything like that. And it has Baby Yoda, which is the most fucking marketable thing in existence. Like
There's my note. Didn't think I would like Baby Yoda as much as I do. That
Baby
was around
Yoda is
episode three,
so
and I was like,
cute.
oh damn.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't really do a lot in the second episode, I should say, because we only get introduced into him right at the end of the first. But in the second episode, he doesn't really do a lot until that kind of moment where he uses the Force. And I remember when that first happened, I was like, oh no, are we gonna be doing this? Are we really going to do? This was the first time I watched it, by the
Yeah.
way. I was like, are we really going to do the Force in this? And this series does play with the Force a bit, but it's very subtle. There's only like two or three moments in the entire show where
It is the
Baby
main
Yoda
focus
actually,
of it.
yeah, and two of those come in
Final
the
two
final
episodes.
two
Yeah.
episodes. Um, but like I was like, okay, cool. So Baby Yoda is this thing that exists. It's the greatest thing, honestly. Like it's incredible, and what makes it even more impressive is just the fact that it's an animatronic.
That thing's
The fact
animatronic?
it is, yeah,
What
it's not CGI.
fuck?
Like that is a real thing that exists.
Wow.
And this is what to bring in my next point, is the production value of Mandalorian. Um, Mandalorian is very well made, but what really sets it apart from other Star Wars things, besides obviously, the original trilogy, is its use of practical
Yeah,
elements.
I noticed that around, actually, like, it took me a bit, but in episode 8 particularly,
Yeah.
there is the
Yeah.
scene where the Moff arrives in his TIE fighter, and the
Yeah.
TIE fighter lands on the ground, and I was looking at the lighting on the TIE fighter, and I was looking at the notches and things. I'm like, I don't remember this scale of detail in the
Yeah.
movies. on a
Yeah.
TIE fighter.
Yeah, but it's interesting because there's a few little behind the scenes things going on with this as well. So obviously there's a lot of practical sets and animatronics. The animatronics is Baby Yoda. Baby Yoda is a full animatronic puppet, very much like what Yoda used to be back in the day.
Damn.
Um, Back before they made Yoda all CGI, but also I'll see if I can find his name because I've forgotten his name. Hang on, let me just bring up fucking
Are you
IMDb for a
talking about
sec.
the farmer dude from the second?
Yeah,
Yeah, Quill.
yeah, get Quill. Yeah, so Quill is a full animatronic as well. Well, animatronic, and I think a mixture of animatronic and actor, in depending on the
Yeah.
shots. But it's not the actor that voices him. It's like, but his actual modeled face is actually modeled after the actor that voices him. But it's not that doing it because that actor isn't that short. But I think in some of the shots he's an actual small like person actually moving. But a lot of the shots you will notice that he's standing still or he's like his head's moving or he's turning, and that's because a lot of the shots he's actually an animatronic. He's not a real person either. And it's just fucking
That
impressive. Like Baby Yoda
I did
alone
not
is
know either of
impressive.
those, and that, yep.
Yeah. But once you know it, it also becomes obvious because it's how they use Baby Yoda. There's a lot of examples where they cut to Baby Yoda maybe sitting in his pod, they cut away, and then they cut back to him and he's out of his pod walking. Like the example is in episode 7 when the creatures attack the camp, right? And the boss killed dude is like injured, right?
Yeah.
And there's a shot that cuts to Baby Yoda he's in the background actually, but it's like a big shot of Baby Yoda and he's in the pod looking at the situation. Then it cuts away back to another shot, and when we cut back, he's now standing on the ground and walking. So there's a lot of like cutting away to hide the fact that Baby Yoda obviously can't jump
Yeah.
out of a thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in the series, a lot of Baby Yoda cutting away just to hide the fact that they're changing the position of Baby Yoda and all that kind of thing. But yeah, they don't utilize CGI. And the cool thing about that is that it actually gives the actors something real to interact with.
That full on explains in episode 4 when all the kids are surrounding Baby Yoda. I'm like, did they
Yeah.
have a stand in for that, for those kids to be that excited? Or is this just them staring in amazement at thin air until they CG that in?
No, no, it was a legit
That's that
animatronic.
is amazing.
And everything's animatronic from the ears to the eyes, and that's why one thing I love about the fact that it is an animatronic is all the lighting reflects off something real.
Mm,
And you actually see it, like there's times when Baby Yoda will turn his head and you can actually see the light reflect in his eyes, um, which is amazing, and I love it. And I just wish they did more of that.
yeah.
You know, I mean, Star Wars Force Awakens did practical stuff, and then they just abandoned that for the other two movies. It's like, just do practical, because here's, and this is what I've got in my notes, practical sells Star Wars a lot more.
Mm,
It just sells it. Because there's something real for the actors to interact with, but also there's something real for, you know, for like it looks real. You know, it doesn't look fake, because when you have like CGI characters, you know, obviously with modern technology you can actually match the lighting with CGI characters so the lighting works. But you know, when you think back to the prequels and how shiny everything was, especially with the CGI characters, obviously the lighting doesn't match up with the real performances. Although, like at its time, I will say for its time, like that's the whole thing George Lucas was pioneering. Like George Lucas was pioneering that technology back then.
yeah.
You know, so of course, you know, it's very much a product of its time. I'd still say Episode 3 still holds up pretty well.
Episode 3 does hold up. Episode 1, obviously being the oldest
Episode
of
1
the
doesn't.
CG times, is it
Yeah.
does not. Gun.
I do think episode 2 does a bit as well, but that's mainly because here's the thing about episode 1 and 2 is episode 1 and 2 do utilize a lot of practical sets as well.
Mm,
Um, where episode 3 kind of didn't do that a lot. But anyway, look, that's a discussion for later. But that's what I love about the series. But not only that, you thought that was it, Lewin. Oh no.
But wait, there's more.
I got something else for you. You remember the old classic reprojection technology that films used to use back in the day before green screen was a thing?
I believe I know what you're referring to.
Yeah, it's basically where you have a classic example is in the scene in Doctor No, the first James Bond film, the Sean Connery one. I'm assuming you've seen that. I think you said just. Okay, so anyway, so there's this. Well, you would have seen it in a lot of the older Sean Connery Bond films, the Roger Moore Bond films.
Yep.
It's basically where they film the actor and then they project the background behind them.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, yep.
That's how they did. I think it was in. I don't know if it was one of the older Godzilla movies or something, but they actually had the actress in the bottom of frame and they reprojected Godzilla behind her to make it look like they were both in the same frame. And that way she was able to react to that because it's actually something for her to react to rather than being nothing there.
Yep.
So, the reason why I bring this up is because Mandalorian utilizes reprojection technology, but it's a much more modern version of reprojection.
Yep.
And the cool thing about this is I believe it's a new technology as well. It's a new type of reprojection technology. So basically they have this soundstage, right? With walls that go all the way around. And you'll notice it a lot. But what this does is it can render backgrounds in real time, and those backgrounds will move with the camera.
Yes.
To create a 3D environment and a 3D look.
I think I saw a picture of that in, like, wasn't one of the cave scenes shot that way?
There's so many scenes shot that way.
I've seen
so one of them is like the big example in the BTS footage is the scene in the first episode where he enters the hideout of German filmmaker. What's his name?
Werner Herzog?
Yeah. Werner Herzog. So he enters his place, right? Now that is a completely reprojected set. That's not a real set. It's all reprojected, and then obviously like the table and in the center of the room, and like there's a few boxes and stuff lying around. Those are all real things, and obviously the door's also real as well. But the actual room itself is a reprojection that moves with the camera.
That is really cool.
Yeah, and it's honestly not something I thought of when I first saw it. But when you actually look at the behind the scenes, you can actually see the projection change when the camera moves. So it renders it in real time. And this, of course, and then it's funny because once I noticed this, I started seeing it throughout the whole series. I started being able to tell, like, okay, I can actually see that there's a reprojection there. But what it does is it really helps sell it rather than going green screen and CGI. Because they obviously rendered all these environments out pre-shooting, of course.
Yeah.
Because they are all CG environments. But what makes it different to using green screen they're actually in that environment, essentially. And that actually gives them a lot, again, like with the animatronics, it actually gives them something to work with and something to bounce off and something real. And what works really well for this as well is obviously the interior shots of the ship. Whenever he's in the cockpit, if he's on a planet, you would see daytime around, you would see the light reflecting from the planet into the ship. That's all projected. It's all projected screen around the ship that projects the environment of the planet the Mandalorian is on into the cockpit, so that way it looks real. And also, what was the other thing I was going to say? The reflections on Mandalorian's armor. They're all... What makes this great is because unlike with green screen, one, the Mandalorian's armor is super reflective, which means green screen you would have to also highly edit the image to edit out the green reflection from his armor. Doing it this way, and that's why I think they kind of pioneered this stuff as well, is to avoid that. But doing it this way, you actually, which is also why when you look at the prequel series of films, um, all the clone troopers are animated. They're not real clone
Yeah.
troopers. The only times you see them real is if he takes the helmet off, and even then, I don't think it's a real clone trooper outfit. Pretty sure it's just the actor wearing a suit, like one of those capture suits. But yeah, what it does is it allows for these reflections off the Mandalorian armor, which again helps sell it. It makes it feel real. It looks real to watch. Because you actually have real reflections of these environments coming off the armor, and it looks so fucking cool. And then obviously, the series utilizes a lot of practical settings as well, like the farm, for example. Like the set in the Bounty Hunters Guild. All those are real sets.
Yeah.
The sets on Tatooine. The sets on Tatooine are real as well. But a lot of the time, like especially in the final episode, you might notice it. They might have a wide shot or something of, or even like a mid shot or something of one of the characters, and the background behind them is projected. But you will also notice, like if you look very carefully in the frames, there's certain things on the ground which are used to mask the change between what's actually on the ground on set and the projection to make it look seamless. So a lot of times that might be like rocks or something in the background that are just laid out in the shot. It's shit you don't notice, but it's how they do those wide shots where you have like them standing on a soil ground or a sand ground, and then you can still have the environment span off into the distance in the background. It's they just put these little things to hide and make it blend. And obviously in post, I'm sure there's probably some CGI enhancements as well in post just to make it blend a little bit more. But that's how they do it. It's fucking cool.
That is.
Anyway, that's my rant about the fucking
Technology.
project.
No,
Yeah,
that's what's
but no,
awesome. That,
yeah, it's a really cool fucking it just makes it everything look realistic.
mm,
Um and it will definitely also help with acting as well. Speaking of acting, let's talk about Pedro Pascal.
he is in my notes in acting is well done, notably Werner Herzog and Pedro Pascal.
So you just cut out there, so I missed anything you just
Acting
said.
is well done, notably Werner Herzog and Pedro Pascal. That was around
Mm,
episode four-ish when I was thinking
yeah.
that, so I wrote that down around then. Obviously, Carl Weathers and I don't know who played Gina Carla. I don't know her last name. Sorry. Please go
Gina Carano. Carano? I don't know. She was in Deadpool.
on. Oh, she was. Yeah. Um,
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a good list of actors here. I mean, um, a lot of them are unknown actors or not big actors. A lot of them are TV actors, obviously.
mm,
But you've got like Pedro Pascal, who's probably this Pedro Pascal. We've got Taika Waititi in there, um, which is great. So he voices
oh,
IG-11.
God, of course he does.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't you tell? I mean,
I,
it's kind of hard to tell, but now that it's funny because I knew he was voicing it, so I didn't pick it up the first time, but rewatching it, you can definitely hear Taika Waititi's
I was
voice
gonna
in that.
search up who voices IG, and then I completely blanked on who did it on to search it up, and then I
Yeah,
got to the end of the episode 8, and I saw the directed by Taika Waititi, and I'm like, fucking what?
yeah, and then not only would you have seen that, but IG-88 is also the first character to appear in that episode, so his name would have also come up as the first actor in the credits as well.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah,
I love
because they don't
him.
credit they don't credit the motion capture performance artists in the main credits. They obviously correct they do the voice actor, which is Taika Waititi. But if you look at the extended credits at the
Yeah.
end of the episode, you'll also get the actor who did the motion capture as well. Um, but yeah, he voices IG-11, which is really cool. So he's in the first episode and he's in the last two episodes as well. Um, but that's cool. I mean, he's done motion capture himself before, so I'm sure he probably would have done the motion capture if he wasn't directing the episode as well.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's probably why they got a different actor in to do the motion capture stuff. But yeah, he's in that. Obviously, Werner Herzog, who I didn't know was an actor as well. I just thought he was a filmmaker, but he has done some acting, and he's fine in this. I kind of can't get past his German accent, so it's kind of hard to like. I don't know. It's just kind of hard for me to take him seriously in the scenes because I'm like, okay, like, all right, you got and nothing like against Germans. Like, of course, Germans can act, but it's maybe because I know him as a filmmaker, not as an actor. So just seeing him act in something, I'm like, okay.
Interesting.
But I mean, I thought he was good
I
though.
actually
I didn't think
found
he
that
was
the
bad.
German accent actually sold the character for me. It gave this kind
Great,
of tone to his speaking that kind of sold him as a person
definitely.
you didn't
I
want to fuck with, particularly.
yeah, I love that line. Bounty hunting is a complicated business. And all that kind of stuff. Like every time he talks, like I really loved his performance and I really liked that character. But I don't know, just for me, I think it's just because I know him as a filmmaker, and I was just like, are you? Because I didn't realize he was also an actor as
I
well.
know
So I just
his acting and voice acting roles, so
okay, well then there we go. So that's why for me personally, I came into it with a different context to what you did. So personally, I was just like, oh, okay, I know him as a filmmaker. So for me, I just thought maybe he was buddies with Jon Favreau, and Jon Favreau's like, hey, do you want to have a role in this? You know, maybe he's like a Star Wars fan or something. That's why I thought he had this role. But no, he's good in it, like 100%. Like I just for me because I don't have that context of him as an
fair,
actor, I
fair
was
enough.
just like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. But another actor who I recognize, Nick Nolte, who plays Quill. The only I've seen him in two movies. He's in a movie with Kate Beckinsale, but the movie I most know him for, and I'm just gonna double check to make sure I get this right, but I'm pretty sure it's him. Is he played the villain in the Ang Lee Hulk movie?
Huh.
I'm pretty sure. I'm just double checking it now just to be 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's him. I'm going to go down. Let's go down to 2000 and. Or maybe it's not him. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's him. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Hulk. There you go. It's in his IMDb.
Ah.
So there we go. Yeah. So I thought I recognized him. He looks very different now, of course. Back then he had like long hair and like a
Yeah.
beard and shit. But obviously he looks very different in Mandalorian. But no, he's in that, so I recognize him. The other actor I recognized, and I recognized her voice, and I couldn't remember where I recognized her voice from originally, but she's the actress that plays the armorer. Um, the Mandalorian armorer. Her name's Emily Swallow. That's the actress's name, and she's done a lot of TV stuff. But I know her from Supernatural.
Ah.
She's in one of the later seasons of Supernatural. I think maybe season 11 and 12. I think, but she's one of like the villains in Supernatural. So that's what she's most known for.
I think
I think she was in The Mentalist as well, I think. I don't know. But she's most known for her work in Supernatural.
Yeah.
And yeah, Supernatural, yeah. She plays the character Amara in Supernatural. She's also apparently going to be in The Last of Us Part 2.
interesting.
She's going to be voice acting in that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I recognized her voice in that, and I couldn't quite place it until I actually looked up the cast list and actually saw her.
I think the most actors I recognized or didn't recognize for some of it was in episode 6, The Prisoner. When they go the whole
Oh
heist
yeah,
prison break
there's
deal.
Clancy Brown.
Clancy
Clancy
Brown.
Brown is in that.
What was 'cause
Ned's Natalie Tina.
that's Natalie who I know for playing Nymphadora Tonks in Harry Potter,
Yeah, Nymphadora Tonks.
who is my favorite Harry Potter character. So for me to see
Yeah,
the
she's
chick
in that.
Sean, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
They did really well on the prosthetics on the Twi'leks. The
Yeah,
prison
they
one
the
freaked me the fuck out.
yeah, the Twi'leks are usually pretty well done. There was also that other guy as well, like the one with like the
Oh,
robot gun. I can't think of the actor's name,
oh,
but I've seen him in bits
yes.
and
I
pieces.
don't. I've already forgotten his name. I think it's Ben something. Um, I know him for playing. I think his name's Kubi or something. He's in Breaking Bad for a few episodes.
Right.
That's
Okay.
one of Saul Goodman's underlings.
Right.
So
Yeah. Look, I don't know, man. I have no idea. I also recognize the guy that in that episode that plays the guy that gives them the job. I recognize him, but I can't remember where I recognize him from as well. Um, but the reason why I brought up the acting is because I want to talk about Pedro Pascal.
yep.
So here's the thing about Pedro Pascal is he would have had a tough job because as an actor, he couldn't utilize all of what actors call their instrument. Okay, so he couldn't utilize at least I think I got that term right. I don't know. I talk to a lot of actors. They refer to the instrument a lot. I don't know if the instrument refers to their voice or if it refers to their body, but it doesn't matter. Look, listen, who cares? Anyway, look, Pedro Pascal couldn't utilize everything, obviously, because you never see his face. Well, okay, you do in one episode, but I'll get to that later. But for the most part, you don't see his face because he has a helmet on because obviously, he's a Mandalorian. Um, he swore an oath to basically never take the helmet off in front of a living thing, essentially. So you never see his face. So he has to act and play this character without utilizing a powerful tool that actors use, which is their facial expressions. Because obviously you can get a lot of subtle things in an actor's facial expressions in a performance. He doesn't have
Yeah,
that
he has to rely
because
purely on his tone of voice and body.
tone of voice and body language. And I want to emphasize body language a lot because what I love about The Mandalorian and his performance is that that suit of armor, you can always tell what's going on in that Mandalorian's head. And it always comes down to just the little things, the little subtle nuances in his body language or his head
Mm,
movement. For me, watching that show, I don't. And again, I'll come back to the last episode a bit, but I don't need to see his face because to me, like, that helmet is his face, right? I mean, I guess it really is, isn't it?
yeah,
Like,
you swear an oath not to take it off in front of a living thing.
yeah.
That becomes what
And
everyone sees of you. That is your
yeah,
face.
and but it's just the little things. It's the way he moves his head or his body language and again his tone of voice. And those are the things that really work. And that's like Pedro Pascal is fantastic in this. He's fantastic. And the reason why is because, it's a tough gig. Like having to act that is a tough gig. Like it wouldn't be easy. Like I can tell you right now, acting in general is not
Oh,
easy.
yeah.
It's
Yep.
really tough. It's really hard. And to have to do it without ever utilizing your face, that's even more impressive. And I really love just his performance. Like I really got a sense of the Mandalorian as a character, and like there's kind of a character arc for the Mandalorian that goes across the series, but just watching him in scenes, I especially the second time round, I really got a sense of who this character is, just purely based on the little subtle nuances that Pedro puts into his performance. Fucking
Agreed.
fantastic. That's all I have to say. Is so good. Um, I will say that, like, I mean, we've written notes on all the episodes. I don't really want to go too
No.
much into the episodes, but let's just talk about the structure. So, Mandalorian is 8 episodes. It does have an overarching story that spans across those 8 episodes, but it's mostly comprised of standalone stories that usually happen as a result of. I mean, the standalone episodes are mainly episodes 5 and 6. but they kind of happen as a result of him being on the run. And I guess episode 4 as well. But episode 4 is, like you said earlier, like episode 4 is that
It's the one that
kind of
actually
episode.
states that he's doing it to lay low, so it kind of
Yeah,
makes you feel like it's a part of the story arc.
yeah.
But then episodes 5 and 6 don't actually give you a reason for why he's.
Yeah.
You
They
just
do,
instantly
yeah.
assume that he's on the
Well,
run.
episode 5 at the start, he's being hunted by another
That
bounty
is
hunter,
true. Yeah.
and ship is damaged and he crashes. And then episode 6, there's a brief mention between him and the dude, who's like, I heard you've left the guild, or whatever he says. And there's like that brief mention, but it's not really a part of the plot
Yeah.
of the
Okay. I
episode.
must have missed that line, but yeah.
Yeah, it's just a one-off little line. It's nothing too big, but yeah, it's basically comprised of standalone stories. So, but a lot of the structure I've noticed is even the standalone stories. A lot of the first half of the series is also standalone, even though it's setting up elements. The first 4 episodes set up the basic, like the first episode is essentially a setup. And I will say with this, The Mandalorian is slow to get started. I mean, it's not for me because I was on board from literally straight away. But in terms of just the general narrative and the general understanding of who these characters are and the kind of introductions, it is a slow burner for the first episode. A lot of the first episode is basically setting up the Mandalorian as a
Yeah.
character. It's not really about anything. Nothing really happens in the episode. It's more just, this is the Mandalorian. And it sets up a lot of things like his character arc, for example. It sets up who he is as a character. We're introduced to the overarching villain of the series. We're kind of introduced to basically just this world. That's what this first episode sets up, is it sets up the world. I will say it also gives us a glimpse into the world of the Mandalorians and more, which the series will delve more into Mandalorian lore later on. If you've watched Clone Wars, there's a lot of Mandalorian lore in Clone Wars. So there's that. If you want more Mandalorian themed stuff, you can watch Clone Wars. And also Rebels, by the way. Rebels also delves into some Mandalorian stuff as well. Mainly because I don't know if you've watched Rebels, but yeah, so the character of Sabine, who's one of the main characters, she has Mandalorian armor, and she is, from memory, I'm pretty sure she's from Mandalore, and she's from a clan, and later on in the series, she kind of reunites with that clan because I'm pretty sure she was banished or some shit. I don't know, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched Rebels, but it does explore that Mandalorian lore. Like at the end, you know how in the final scene of the Mandalorian, he cuts out of the
With
ship
the
with the
dark
dark
saber. Yeah.
saber. Yeah, so Sabine actually in Rebels, Sabine actually gets a dark saber,
That and
and
that's not where I know that from. Just all I have written
yeah,
at the end of episode eight's notes is, oh shit, Gideon is alive. He has a fucking dark saber. I'm like,
yeah.
okay.
Now, to me, that's probably suggests it's probably something it's probably like a prize to him from, because they do set up in the episode that he was involved with the siege on Mandalore. So I wouldn't be surprised if he treats that as kind of
Hmm.
like this prize. You know how like General Grievous always had like the
The collection
lightsabers of all the
weapon.
Jedi
Yeah.
he killed? Yeah, I think that's a similar sort of thing. It's like his prized possession from when he took down Mandalore. But yeah, so the first episode basically just sets up
Hmm.
things.
I will say
You know,
that particular scene of the last episode actually
yeah.
kind of did save a lot of the narrative of the series for me, because one of the main tropes I absolutely hate in most media now
Mm,
is kill the big bad to establish the other big bad.
yeah.
And that's because the moment Moff Gideon fucking shows up, he kills Werner
Yeah.
Herzog, nothing done,
Just,
and then he
yeah.
supposedly dies. And I was immediately very disappointed because I was like, so he kills the person with the character development and then has like one episode of mentioned things that he did. And if it weren't
Yeah.
for the fact that he was revealed as alive, I would have been very slightly annoyed because that to me is
Mm.
tiny bit shitty writing. But no, they did
Which
salvage
is
that.
Yeah, which is why I also don't say that he's like the villain of season 1. Like yeah, he is the antagonist of the final episode. He is the one kind of pulling the strings. He is the main villain. But I would say he's going to be more the main villain of season
Yeah,
2
he
rather than
didn't
season
pull
1.
the heavy work to be called
The
season
villain.
one.
Yeah. He's the mastermind, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah. He's the mastermind where Werner Herzog is Mr. X.
I just had a note
Um,
related to in episode 6 when fucking Mando's controlling the prison.
yeah. Oh,
I've just
yeah.
got
He's the
Mando's been playing some
mastermind.
of that RE Resistance.
He's been playing some Resistance. He's having a good old time. Yeah. But yeah, so like episode 1, now here's my issue, first issue with the series, in terms of like how it's paced. Episode 2 is very much its own kind of standalone episode because when you really look at the where its placement is in the general scheme of things, you've got episode 1, which is the setup, and episode 3 is really the payoff.
Yeah, episode 3 is where he gets
It's
the he it kick starts the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's kind of the payoff to episode 1, but it's also what sets up the plot of the entire season. And episode 2 is just kind of in the middle. And all episode 2, I mean, obviously, I get episode two's purpose. Episode 2 is there to set up Baby Yoda as a
Yeah.
character. So we understand why Baby Yoda is this important thing that Mando has had to track down. But honestly, it's a lot of faffing about that episode. It literally not much happens in it. It's a lot of Mandalorian faffing about for a bit. The bloody they strip his ship, and then they're like, "Hey, we'll give you the parts if you go get an egg."
Yes.
And I'm sitting there like, is this really the follow up? Is this what we're doing? And look, I will say, as an episode on its own, this episode works. It's some silly Star Wars, and I love me a bit of silly Star Wars. But at the same time, you could honestly condense the first episode, and you could condense this second episode, and have it be one episode.
Yeah.
Um, it was my thoughts were I've got it in my notes. You could have do what a lot of series do and have an extended first episode. So rather than have like a half-hour episode like Mandalorian is, it's half-hour episodes. You could have say a 45-minute or a 50-minute or an hour episode as the pilot, because it would get the plot going a lot quicker. And I think because I have seen a lot of feedback of people who have said that they stopped watching
Episode 2, I got
because
half. The first time I watched episode 2, I got
yeah,
halfway through, and then I was like, I'm just gonna go to bed and watch this tomorrow. And then, as we know, I did not watch episode 2 up until last week.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of it's to do with that. The plot doesn't really get going in the first episode. It kind of doesn't get going until the third episode. So you've got several episodes of just stuff happening until we get to the third episode. And I really think just overall, they could have benefited more from combining episode 2 into one and then having episode 3 as episode 2, because then you've got your full setup but you've got your hook. All right, because episode 2 gives you the hook. Episode 2 is, oh shit, Baby Yoda can use the Force, and that's your hook. So then episode 2 can then expand. If we put episode 3 as episode 2, then that's when you set up the rest of the season. And the problem is episode 1 of Mandalorian doesn't really have a hook. And every pilot episode needs to have something to hook the audience
Yeah.
to continue
It's
watching.
it
I
leaves
mean,
off at that weird moment of, yeah, he saved the kid, but it doesn't have
yeah,
the impact that any of the rest of the
yeah,
cliffhangers or what have yous would happen.
yeah. And that's why I think it would have been better off condensed. And the cool thing about that is you could still have 8 episodes because you could condense that And you could maybe add, another standalone story in there if you wanted to, or you could maybe add another episode to add maybe more complication to the overall plot of the series. Like that literally would free up an entire episode to do whatever. And I just feel like it's a bit of a wasted episode because literally not much happens in it. It's like my criticism of Game of Thrones. All right, I was actually talking to someone about Game of Thrones recently, and I was like, "Yo, I cannot stand Game of Thrones, and the reason why I can't stand Game of Thrones is because you could sometimes go for a full half a season or more, and literally nothing
Yeah.
happens to progress the plot of that show forward, and it's like, what is the point?" But you know what, that's a different
Yeah.
topic. But yeah, that's my issue with the early part of the season is I think episode 2 is a bit it works on its own, but I think just its general placement doesn't quite
Also,
work.
the rest of the season generally well
Yeah.
paced, leaving alone the episodes that could be like it still feels paced enough that you can't call it too short because I feel like if you cut out episodes 5 and 6, you're like this was way too short for what this was.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though is like, and this is what I was going to bring up is, I guess we're in this TV landscape now where we're so used to having these overarching stories, these overarching, narratives being told over the course of multiple seasons. We're not used to this idea of having standalone TV anymore like we used to have. And Mandalorian, I mean, yeah, there are obviously shows out there that do that, but Mandalorian is kind of what it's a standalone show. It's not about there's the kind of overarching narrative to kind of
It's very much
allow Mandalorian to get Mando to get from point A to point B, but it's very much a show that is based on standalone adventures.
people will hate this because we keep bringing it up. It's very much the way Doctor Who, as you said earlier, Doctor Who
Yeah,
does
it's
things.
very much how Doctor Who is formatted. There's like that season arc, but it's standalone adventures, and obviously,
It'll always come back
without
to it.
yeah, without Breaking Bads and our Walking Deads and our Game of Thrones and whatever other fucking trashy TV shows do this. And I know that's another hot take right there because I think I haven't seen Breaking Bad, so I'm not commenting on that. But I genuinely believe Walking Dead and Game of Thrones is trash TV. But that's just me. Anyway, back to Mandalorian. So I told you I'd have some hot takes. Back to Mandalorian, it's very much a show designed around the episode of the week.
Yes.
Not, it's the adventure of this week. But what the early part of the season does really well is setting up the future of the season. So episode 3 is very much. I mean, even episode 3 is very standalone in terms of the general plot of episode 3, but it's very much the payoff to what's set up in episode 1. Then episode 4, we've got, I guess, our first standalone adventure. We've kind of set up the season. Mandalorian's on the run now with Baby Yoda. And he's finding a place to hide out. And then we go to episode 4, where we've got that whole plot line with the farmers and the raiders. It's a fucking great episode. But what that does is it also introduces us to new
Yes.
characters that we're going to come back to later on. And that's what the first 4 episodes of this series does. We get introduced to all these elements that are all brought back in the final 2 episodes. Then we have episode 5 and 6.
Where it is literally their own standalone adventure that's, as you
Yeah.
said,
Episode 6 more so much. Yeah. So episode 5, he crashes on the planet or whatever. And he basically takes this job to, I guess, take down this.
bounty.
I don't know if she's a
I think
bounty
she's a bounty
hunter.
hunter. I think that's what was
Yeah.
said.
She's played by Ming-Na Wen, who is also in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there you go. But yeah, so they take him down. It's like kind of like he gets a sidekick, whatever. It doesn't really matter.
Tor was a cold motherfucker at the end. Just putting that
Yeah,
one out there.
yeah. I also don't really like his character. He's very much the Han Solo character of this
I
series,
think that
really.
was really on purpose because he is sitting the exact same way Han was.
Yeah, it's very on the nose. My issue with him, I think he's the weakest part of this entire series. I think I'm so glad he was killed off. because I don't think that actor's performance was very strong. I think it was a little cliche and a little maybe safe on the performance side of things.
I kind of
Um,
appreciated not the safeness of it. His characterization, I kind of appreciated as a foil to Mando. You got the
yeah,
weird, quirky little sidekick idiot, and then you got the stern, serious type. And
yeah.
in a episode called The Gunslinger, that just reminds me of The Dark Tower by Stephen King. I'm not going to go into it, but that
Mm,
very much reminds me of one of the character dynamics in that book series. It
yeah.
almost felt on purpose, but I don't think it was.
But what this episode is noteworthy for is the end scene,
Yes,
with which is basically, I guess, potentially setting up Boba Fett
was
for
that
season
what that
two.
was?
Well, okay, so he's got it's the so we see this figure, and we only really see this figure's boots. Is walking towards dead Ming Na Wing's character, whatever.
Yeah,
Ming Na Wen. I don't know what her name is. Ming Na Wen, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So anyway, heading towards that character. Now the boots have this little shackle, which is very westerny. Um, very westerny. But the other character in the Star Wars universe that has that is Boba Fett.
and the planet is Tatooine.
Exactly. So, I think that obviously it's not confirmed or anything, but I do think that's a general
I
tease at setting
please.
up Boba Fett for later
If they
on.
can get Mando to
Um,
somehow kill Boba Fett, hot take, I don't like Boba Fett. Let's do it.
but I think it'd be cool to maybe bring Boba Fett into it in some capacity. Maybe expand on that character a bit because that character mainly exists in expanded
Yeah,
media.
it's really why I
Not
don't care for him.
Yeah. So I'd be interested in that. But yeah, that's something they're teasing for season 2, I guess, maybe later on down the line, who knows. Um but yeah, and then you kind of have the prisoner, which I actually think is a very fun
It is,
episode.
yes.
A lot of people criticize this as the worst episode, the weakest episode. I just have a lot of
Yeah,
fun with it. It's just a heist. It's a prison break. It's a heist. It's just a thing that exists. I will say it basically. I will say it borderlines over it borderlines on camp
on
at
occasion,
times.
yes.
With the acting, I think all the side characters, even though I like these actors, are a bit overacted in parts.
100%. That had to have been
Um,
on purpose, though.
I think so. I think that was the kind of point, but it does make it a bit campy. And look, I'm all fine for a bit of camp, but at the same time, I guess because the tone of the episode was a bit more lighthearted than the rest. Um, Except there was some great moments of tension in that episode, I will say. Um, but yeah, it was bordering on campiness. Um, and then, of course, everything kind of comes together with episode 7 and 8. 7 and 8 is where the story of the show really is.
It's
Um, you
payoff
know,
to episode 3.
it's the payoff to it's the payoff to all the setup in the first 4 episodes. Like I said, this is where everyone comes back together. We're reintroduced to all the characters that we met earlier on in the series, and Mando kind of forms a team, if you will. And it's a two-parter story. That in my notes here that I've written, it is the first episode really works well at building tension towards the latter half of it, towards the end.
Yes.
The tension is really well done in this episode.
I think it actually was episode 7 where I. Yes. Episode 7, particularly at the end,
Mm.
leading into episode 8.
It's really the only episode that ends on a like proper
The
cliffhanger.
music in that part, that low
Yeah,
beat, that low beat that
yeah,
keeps happening as the TIE fighter comes in and the speed is going out towards Quill,
yeah,
that rose that tension from an already. The atmosphere of that scene alone is tense. They did an amazing job getting tension throughout that build up.
yeah. Yeah, it's a really well done scene. I don't know who directed that
Um,
episode because I think
was that
um,
Taiko
hold on, I'm
was
gonna have a
episode
look.
8?
I'm on the thing now, so I'm gonna go full cast and crew. I don't know if you can look up the crew without.
Well, Deborah Chow.
Here we go. Directors Deborah Chow. She's doing. I'm pretty sure Deborah Chow is the one doing one of the new. I don't know if it's a new Disney Plus show or if it's the new one of the new Marvel movies. I'm pretty sure she's doing. Oh no, she's doing the Obi-Wan Kenobi
Oh,
series.
okay, then that's actually very good then.
Yeah, so she's doing that. She's done in the past. Actually, yeah, that's why I got it confused with Marvel because she has done some Marvel work in the past. She was, um, she'd been director on an episode of Iron Fist. She's done an episode of Jessica Jones. Um, she's mainly known for, I guess, she's done an episode of American Gods, The Man in the High Castle, the Amazon series, Better Call Saul, which is, I'm pretty sure that's the Breaking Bad
That is
spin off, I'm
Breaking
pretty
Bad
sure.
spin-off, and apparently it's very well done. So she's got pretty good.
She's got a pretty good
Yeah,
resume. But yeah, so she's gonna be doing the Obi-Wan series. Now that series has been
delayed indefinitely.
honestly delayed indefinitely. But that was actually before the whole coronavirus
Yeah, there
thing.
was
This was actually like
writing
last
issues
year.
with it, wasn't there?
So I think yeah. So it's definitely gonna come. Like obviously they wouldn't made the effort of bringing Ewan McGregor out at the Disney panel thing and making this big thing out of it if it wasn't. They would never.
Yeah,
It was never like it's going to happen
it's just
100%.
gonna be a bit longer.
Um, it's in a bit of a limbo at the moment, I guess. And that happens with most productions. Like a lot of productions, you'll find that things get changed a lot of the time. But yeah, she's that. But we've also got Dave Filoni in there, who's directed two
Yes,
episodes.
he.
Um,
That was my main thing with because he directed the Gunslinger. It very much felt kind of like the way the earlier seasons of Clone Wars did things.
yeah,
It's standalone in the exact way that the earlier seasons of Clone Wars did standalone.
yeah. It's weird. Oh no, hang on. That's writer. He wrote the episode The Gunslinger. He was the writer
I
of
think he was
that.
also the director for it.
Um, I'm pretty sure he was the director. Yeah, he was the director, and he also directed episode one as well. Um, which is interesting because he doesn't have a lot of live action directing credits. Most of his directing credits actually come from animation. Star Wars, Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels. He didn't actually do any directing on Resistance, but he was writer and producer in that. But do you know what else he did a lot of directing on? Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he directed quite a few episodes. He directed 9 episodes of Avatar: The Last Airbender. So his background is mainly animation. So in terms of directing, and I'm going to assume producing as well, because I'm looking at his producing credits, and it's mostly his producing credits are all Star Wars animation stuff and Mandalorian. Mandalorian is his first live action stuff. And episode one's pretty fucking good. I think it's a lot better than episode 5 in terms of the directing side of things. So there you go. Interestingly, Bryce Dallas Howard directs episode
Yes.
4, which I really love. Episode 4, I really love the directing in that. We've got Rick. Well, fuck, I can't pronounce his last
From
name, but he did. Yeah, he did 2 episodes. Actually, he might have been the one that did. I'm gonna check his directing credits and see which episodes he did. Um, Mandalorian. Yeah, so he did episode 6 and episode 2. So he did the prisoner episode and the child
yeah,
episode. Bryce Dallas Howard did 4. And then that must leave Taika Waititi
Taiko
for
was 8. I know
one.
that for sure.
Taika was 8, and then I think Deborah Chow did episode 7. I
The
think.
Richard did do
Hang on, let me.
episode 7.
Yeah, she did 7 and 3. So interestingly, there's no Jon Favreau directing there. Jon
That,
Favreau just
that
acted as a
actually weirds
producer.
me out because there's a very distinct there's an Iron Man 1 feel to a few of the earlier episodes with the way things are
Yeah,
shot. Um,
yeah,
and I could have sworn for the world that it would just be Jon Favreau directing those scenes because
yeah. I thought Jon Favreau was the director, but I looked at it on the second rewatch, and I was like, oh, Jon Favreau didn't actually direct any of the episodes.
interesting.
Um, he's obviously the creator.
Yeah,
And interestingly, here's some things here. George Lucas. Now, I don't know if this is because they're based on the worlds of Star Wars, like based on the ideas of George Lucas, like what they have to put
yeah.
on everything. But George Lucas is actually credited as a series writer for 9 episodes across 2019 and 2020.
Interesting.
So I don't know how much involvement he has, but he would get credit as a series writer if he was basically working as a consultant, essentially. Um, because I know he was brought in by J.J. Abrams to consult with Episode 9, or not the original draft of Episode 9, but J.J.'s first draft of Episode 9. He was brought in as a consultant for that. But also, like, George Lucas has a history of working with... he's not in any of the other credits for the production. He's only in series writing. So, I mean, look, I don't know if that's actually how true that is, whether he was actually writer on it. I'm actually going to go to his IMDb now and double check. But that could only be a credit based on the fact that he's the creator of Star Wars. Wow, he's got actually a lot of writing credits. Here we go. Oh, yeah, so his credits are based on the characters created by. Okay, so he's not actually writing on it. It's just based on
Yeah.
his characters, so that's his credit. It's just IMDb puts that as a writing credit, so there you go. And yeah, and then all of his anything that's related to Star Wars has got him on board for that. And Indiana Jones, um, the new Indiana Jones film for 2022 is he's got characters and story credit. So that's interesting. Yeah, I thought that was weird that he would be involved with it, but I wouldn't be surprised because I'm pretty sure there was a video of him visiting the set at some point. I'm pretty sure.
Mm,
Back during the production, I'm pretty sure he visited the Mandalorian set, and there was like a video of him and Jon Favreau or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in a minor capacity as like a consultant. He's not officially credited, but he also wasn't officially credited as a consultant for Episode 7 either. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in some capacity. But yeah, that's pretty. There we go. I just ranted about George Lucas for a few minutes, and it turns out he really didn't do much, did he? But it's nice to see, like, I mean, just talking about George Lucas in general, it's nice to see that he is still, even though he's not involved, he's still involved. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, he's still kind of getting out there. I know Disney did him real dirty, and so he wasn't really that involved with the sequel trilogy. But it's nice to see that he's still actually out there. He's consulting with J.J. Abrams on Episode 9. He was initially contracted as a consultant for Episode 7. I don't know if that ended up happening or not. But it's good to see him out there. He was obviously involved in Clone Wars. I don't know if he had much involvement in Series 7, but I'm assuming he would have because he was the creator of the original Clone Wars series, and him and Dave Filoni were the ones that kind of planned that show
Yeah.
out. And Season 7 is just the conclusion to that show that was initially planned. So I wouldn't be so... It's good to see he's still kind of just out and about. He's doing his thing. He's not really involved in the creative process, but he's just kind of still hanging around. It's nice to see it. I love George Lucas. Say what you will about George Lucas with his prequel trilogy, but I love George Lucas.
No, I completely agree.
Also, the greatest thing about George Lucas is he's very much... Okay, like, not so much these days, but back in the day when he made Star Wars, he was very much... Star Wars exists because he was very much fuck the man. That was his attitude back then. fuck these Hollywood studio systems. He funded Star Wars. Like, I don't know if you've seen but watched the Empire of Dreams documentary that's on Disney Plus. Watch that. It goes in depth on the behind the scenes of the original Star Wars trilogy. And it's basically a lot of, he wanted to make a film, but he wanted to make his own film. And he didn't want interference from studios. So he was very much a fuck the studios kind of person. So he got Fox on as a distributor for season 1 and episode 4. The first Star Wars film, and they were very much basically acting as the part financiers as well. But after that, he financed Empire Strikes Back on his own. He literally made Empire Strikes Back off the money he made from the first film because of how big and popular it was. And he funded that himself. And yeah, so it's very much a story of fuck the Hollywood studio systems. He wasn't about that. He was setting out to make a big film himself. And he used that. And then, it's very much reflective in his comment on Disney when he sold it to Disney. He sold it, his infamous comment where he's like, I sold it to the white slave traders that take these things. That's actually a comment from George Lucas when he was talking about selling Star Wars to Disney. But George Lucas is also someone who very much built his own empire in a way. So he very much became what he was against, but he also was a visionary in the world of cinema. Like, the Star Wars films are very much pioneering technology.
Yeah.
From back in the day to even with the prequel trilogy, he's very much a pioneer of technology rather than the head of a studio system. It's great. It's a cool story. Watch Empire of Dreams. It's a great documentary. It's on Disney Plus. But yeah, I guess that's really
it for Mandalorian, I suppose.
I mean, that's really it for Mandalorian. That really brings us to the end. I don't think we're going to talk about Star Wars too much. I like the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
I like the sequel trilogy. I actually like all of Star Wars. I like all of it. I even like Rise of Skywalker. I know that's a controversial thing to say. It's more controversial to say than whether you like The Last Jedi or not. If you like The Rise of Skywalker, oofed. That is a big oofed. But you know what?
It's a fun movie.
Fuck the... Yeah, all I have to say is I'm at a point in life where I don't really care for fandoms anymore like I used to.
I don't give a shit what any of you think. It's the movie that I fucking enjoy.
I like fucking Suicide Squad.
I can't agree with that, but okay.
No, but here's the thing. The reason why I like Suicide Squad is it's a fucking bad movie, and I will tear that film to shreds critiquing it. But here's the thing. I don't know. I just had fun with it. Every time I watch it, I'm having fun. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it, but I just have fun with it. So that's why I like that film. But anyway, coming back to Star Wars, I don't know. I just had fun with Rise of Skywalker. It's a fucking mess of a film, but I had fun with it. Obviously, I'm not the only part of that film I don't like. And actually, this is the one thing I don't like about Mandalorian as well, but I'll get to that in a sec. The only part of Rise of Skywalker I don't like is the fact that Rey and Kylo kissed each other.
I was like, still technically incest.
It is, but or actually no, technically it's now not, because Lucasfilm have since come out and said that what happened in that Darth Vader comic isn't canon.
Dicks.
And I'm pretty sure the only reason they said that was because they realized, oh fuck, this is actually not a good thing. It's hilarious. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So look, listen, I don't like that part. It's forced. It doesn't work.
Yeah. My friend and I looked at each other in the cinema. Both times we watched it together and just laughed as it happened.
It's just weird. It's really weird. And plus also those two... And here's the thing. I think both Daisy Ridley and Adam Driver are fantastic actors. Yep. But those two characters... They have a lot of chemistry, but not that kind of chemistry.
Use of chemistry.
I know, like, because here's the thing: the original plan, obviously, episode 8 sets up a connection between them, but I never got the sense it was a
No
romantic connection. I got the sense that it was,
manipulative connection,
I,
if
I
anything.
well, not just manipulative. Like, there was a sense of understanding between these two characters. Like, because it didn't really get manipulative. Like, it was manipulative in the sense that it was manipulative from Snoke,
I,
but not so much. I didn't. It's not so much manipulative from Kylo.
I actually, I gotta disagree, but in the sense that I saw it as Kylo
Well,
trying
like,
to
I mean, he
level
does.
down with her so that he could, as we got to the throne room scene, where it's like
Yeah,
join me on the dark side. That's how this was gonna work, right? And then she's like, no. The,
yeah, but I think that's not so much manipulative on his side, more that his expectations and what he wants is different. What I'm talking about is the connection between these two characters is this kind of mutual understanding of each other. That's what happens in The Last Jedi, is they have an understanding of each
being
other.
the two main and pretty much last Force
Yeah,
users in the galaxy.
yeah, they get this weird kind of like it's almost like it's not a level of trust per se, but it is this level of like, I understand who you are and I understand why you are what you are, and it's on both sides. It's like, I mean, Kylo has this kind of, both of them have false expectations. Their expectation is Rey's to turn Kylo good and Kylo's to turn Rey bad, but they have their own goals, but they're given that moment to kind of develop as characters and develop that relationship. That relationship does not develop into them loving each
No,
other. That's not how that
no.
went. Yet for some reason, I mean, Rey succeeded in turning Ben good. I guess, kind of. I mean, it wasn't really Rey that did that,
It
really,
was
was it?
Han, if
But,
anything.
but I mean, I guess her goal was met.
Yeah,
Ben turned good. So then they team up at the end. That's what that is. It's that connection that was set up in the eighth film, that was kind of loosely sort of set up in the seventh film, but it's that connection coming together.
yeah.
It's them coming together to defeat the bad guy, right? It's not them falling in love with each other, and I fucking hate that
Yeah,
kiss
no, I agree.
so much. It just doesn't work. Ignoring the whole incest part of it for a second, it doesn't
No,
work.
no, nowhere on any level does
Thematically,
this work with what we have.
but yet it was thrown in there. But yeah, this brings me to the one thing I actually don't like about The Mandalorian, and it comes back to Pedro Pascal. We see his
Yeah,
face.
it wasn't needed.
I don't like that. Like, it's fine. Pedro Pascal, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm like, hey, look, it's Pedro Pascal. But I would be perfectly fine going this entire show with never
Yeah,
seeing under that
exactly.
helmet. And they just had to do that one scene. They just had to stick it in there where we see his face, and it's like,
Even if they just
okay.
said it and then cut away, because there's plenty of
That's
times
what they
where you
should have
see the
done.
helmet off his head, but you never see his
Yeah,
face. But no, they were like, it's Pedro Pascal.
we had to. We had to show him. And, like, look, it's not like he gives a bad performance in that scene either. Like, it's fine, but it's just the concept of removing his
Yeah,
helmet and us seeing his
yeah.
face. And I'm like, it's like, um, it's like, what could have been better is if the robot's like, I am not alive and there's no living things there, so you can remove your helmet. And then the robot removes his helmet. The scene plays out exactly the same, except we don't see a shot of Mando's
Yeah,
face. Maybe we like see a shot over the shoulder and you maybe see like maybe his hair or like something
because
like
we
that.
saw
Like, you
him as
don't
a
see
kid.
his actual face. We've seen him as a kid. We know what Pedro Pascal looks
Just
like.
in care.
So do we just have an over the shoulder shot, or maybe a shot that's like from the side, like maybe the helmet's slowly removed and you maybe see his chin or something, but then it cuts away to just the android's face, and the android IG-88's like, this is a spray to do this thing, and he reaches down and sprays it, and maybe it's like just a close-up of like, or a side shot of his hair, and you see the spray interact, but like you don't see his face at any point. That's what they should have done. But no, we have to have this mid shot of Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Look at him, he's all bloody. Oh no. Ugh, fuck off. It's a stupid moment. It's just as bad as the kiss.
Yeah, it was.
Don't need it.
Well,
But other than that, Mandalorian is fucking
agreed.
great. And Rise of Skywalker is fun.
Exactly. I do
look,
need to start heading. I'm afraid.
Listen, I was going to say this is the end, because we could talk about Star Wars for ages, but I think we should save that for another time.
There is new stuff coming out, multimedia stuff for Star Wars called The High Republic. I'm excited for that.
A lot of Star Wars things exist.
Yes, they will all keep existing.
There is a hell of a lot of Star
Talk
Wars
about
out there.
them as they come.
And hopefully we get some more single-player video games like
Mandalorian
Jedi Fallen Order.
felt 100% like a fucking video game. In progression. Can I just put that out there?
Should have been a video game.
It honestly feels like it was meant to be a video game at some point.
Well, I think initially it was meant to be I don't know. Look, listen, I don't know. Who knows at this point what it was meant to be? Doesn't matter. It's a great series. What is your bullshit rating out of 10?
Bullshit rating? I give it an 11 out of 10. An IG 11 out of 10.
An IG 11 out of 10.
Yeah,
There we
the
go.
letters in it, otherwise it's not one of our ratings if it doesn't have something that shouldn't be in a rating.
Fair enough. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. What do you want to do next episode? Do you want to do The Last of Us, or do you want to do...
This has been delayed. Oh, wait, that's right. We're doing the first game, aren't we?
Oh, no, I'm talking about the first game. Do you want to do The Last of Us, or do you want to do... I don't know, just something else?
I'm happy with The Last of Us. I need to replay it before the sequel
Okay.
comes out anyway, so that's a good excuse again.
Yeah. I'm not going to replay it because I don't have time, but I will watch
Indeed.
it. We'll see. Okay, well then we'll do Last of Us next. So, and probably by that point I might have finished Resident Evil 3, so we can maybe talk about Resident Evil 3 as well. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode. So,
Everybody,
thank you so much.
May the 4th.
I hope you all had a great May the 4th. Fuck, I need to edit this episode. Shit. Anyway, yeah, hope you all had a good May the 4th. There's a new series out on the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, which is released today. So you can go and watch that as well if you want more Mandalorian stuff. I know I will be watching that. But yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode. We'll be talking about Last of Us, maybe Resident Evil next. Who knows, really? We'll just make this up. I've kind of reached the end of my list of planned things. So I'm going to have to plan some more things. So Last of Us and an episode on childhood games or something was like the only things I had left planned. Yep. But with The Last of Us 2 coming out, we could probably do an episode on that at a later stage as well. So things are kind of slowly moving back to normal. So it's interesting. But yeah, so thanks so much for listening. Obviously this episode is, I can actually afford to pay the people now. So this episode might be up on Spotify.
Hey.
I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who knows? But if it's not, thank you for watching this on YouTube or listening to it on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I don't know if I've changed my channel name by this point or not. I have a new channel name that I'm going to change my channel to. But I don't know if I've done that yet. So if I have, great. Subscribe. If I haven't, subscribe. Do all of those things. The YouTube things of liking and stuff. Yes. I've hit 500 subscribers, by the way. We're on 500. I think it's like 506 at the time of recording this, which is on May the 4th. But yeah, I've over 500 subs, so I might do maybe a little video at this stage. I don't know. Maybe I've done a little video. I don't know. At the moment, the only video I have planned, I was going to do a Resistance video, but I don't really have time at the moment, so I probably won't do a Resistance video. But there is a little GTA cinematic thing I've been planning, so I might maybe make that. I don't know. I've been kind of testing out the Rockstar editor recently to try and test out my little idea. So who knows? Maybe that might be coming out. But I can tell you, I'm definitely working on a video for Doctor Who: The Eternity Clock. So that is coming soon, because it's definitely not going to be out today on May the 4th. It'll be out at some point in May. Maybe early June. I don't know. But look, I'm busy with uni stuff at the moment. I've got to edit an animation and I've got to edit a documentary for uni. So like they're kind of like my focuses at the moment. I'm also kind of wrapping up a short film as well. So I don't really have time for YouTube at the moment, but I'm working on it slowly. But yeah, the whole point of that whole rant was subscribe to my channel. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but subscribe to it. Yeah, you can find me on social medias at don't bother with Twitter, because Twitter is a cesspit of toxic fandom.
Boys,
So you can
me.
yeah, you can find me on Instagram though at BYFilm or Rebelcroft, my gaming account, which I haven't posted on there in a while because the Tomb Raider fan base pissed me off on Twitter and I just lost interest in posting on that account. But I might start doing it again. And yeah, other than that, I don't know. Fucking thanks for watching or listening. If this is on Spotify, follow us on Spotify. If this isn't on Spotify, follow us on Spotify, because you can still do that. Even though the episode isn't up, you can still do that. So please do it. I'm actually excited to get this back up and running again properly, because I really, I think we get better numbers on Spotify than we do on YouTube.
Yeah.
But, is what it is. Anyway, we got some previous episodes. We did Scott Pilgrim. We did Resident Evil. We've done some Doctor Who, some other stuff. So they're all in a playlist on the channel. So if you liked this and somehow are listening to this at the end and you've listened to the whole thing, thank you very much for starters. But also, if you want more of it,
check it out.
There is more of it. But yeah, I think that'll do us.
That will.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you guys have a wonderful couple of days. Enjoy your Star Wars. We will see you again. Or we won't see you. You won't see us. You will hear us again probably next month.
Yeah. At some point. Did you know this funny thing, right? This is just the end of the episode. I saw someone make a status. I saw a thing on Reddit, right? And it was like, they should do a podcast that like is live. And someone just commented, "So you mean radio?" And I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty fucking dumb thing to say, isn't it? Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that thought.
Everyone have a good night, day, whatever.